and good afternoon and good morning, good evening to the participants who are joining us from the different parts of the world in different time zones. And on behalf of Tibet House Culture Center of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I welcome you all of you to this conference on study, reflection and meditation based on Buddhist literatures on wisdom and compassion in the Pali and Sanskrit traditions. And I would like to request rest of the participants and the speakers to kindly keep your videos on. We would have an interactive session amongst us. Okay, so I would like to welcome our keynote speaker, Padma Shri Professor Venerable Geshe Ngawa Samtila, and Mr. Shakti Sena, Director General, International Buddhist Confederation, Venerable Geshe Dajjal Amdullah, Director of Tibet House, and to the chairperson, Professor K.T. Sarao, Professor at Delhi University, and all the speakers at the conference. And thank you very much for accepting our invitation and for giving your time for this conference. Before we start the actual session, I'd like to give a brief introduction about Tibet House. It was founded in 1965 by His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama to preserve and disseminate the unique cultural heritage of Tibet and provide a center for Tibetan culture and studies. Tibet House has a museum of Tibetan arts and artifacts, as well as a library and a conference hall where weekly philosophy classes and lectures were held, which were now held online like this conference. In this normal time, Tibet House organizes lectures, conferences, exhibitions, film screenings, and festivals throughout the year. These programs mainly focus on Indian, Tibetan, and Nalanda Buddhist history, science, philosophy, art, literature, and cultures as witnesses to the vital and evolving heritage of the Tibetan people. It also offers courses on Buddhist philosophy. At present, a 4-year Nalanda Master's course on Nalanda Buddhist philosophy, in which 360 participants are enrolled from 39 countries, and a one-year diploma course on Nalanda Buddhist philosophy, in which 547 participants were enrolled from 41 different countries and has been completed with 2 batches. And right now we are running a 3rd batch of Nalanda diploma course, which is a 10-month course with the enrollment of 856 participants from 40 different countries. We also offer a Tibetan language course every 4 months, and till now 20 batches have been graduated so far. Okay. Now I would like to welcome Venerable Geshe Dajjal Amdullah, who is a director of Tibet House, New Delhi since 2011. Geshe served as the interpreter and translator for His Holiness the Dalai Lama within India and abroad for many years, and he is one of the chief editors and co-author of scientific, philosophical, Buddhist, and secular books with prominent professors in the United Kingdom and United States of America, as well as with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. These books are being used at centers and the institute all over the world to study more thoroughly on Buddhist philosophy, metaphysics, epistemology, and science. He has translated several important Buddhist philosophy texts and has contributed various papers for the national and international conferences. Venerable Geshe Dajjal Amdullah's profound knowledge of science and interaction with world-renowned physicists give him the unique ability to teach Buddhist philosophy from the modern perspective that many of his non-Tibetan students appreciated that. Now I request Geshe to kindly address the gathering. Thank you. Please, Geshe.
Respected all the venerables and our chief guest, Mr. Shakti Senaji, the Director General of International Buddhist Confederation, and our keynote speaker, Professor Geshe Ngawa Samtil, the Padma Shri awardee, and greatly renowned and visionary leader, scholar, and practitioner, and our chairperson for today's conference, Professor K.T. Sarojee, a very respected professor and highly influential to many people. And every time I've been hearing from somehow connected the people who connect with Dharma or Buddhism, and they come to tell me they come to know about Buddhism through Professor K.T. Sarojee. So this is what I've been always hearing, and my deep regards, respect to Professor Sarojee. And all of us, all the participants. So we have the respected venerables from the different countries, from Sri Lanka, and so forth. It's a great honor for Tibet House, and all of us here. We are a big family, and we also have the Professor, the Kimbu Trashi Singla from Varanasi, and all the speakers, very eloquent speakers from the different traditions and different places. And in fact, deliberately, our effort here is to bring the youngsters here, the young minds, to learn from the seniors, like Mr. Shakti Sinhaji, the Director General, as I said earlier, of the Institute, the International Confederation of Buddhism. And in fact, you won't believe about as for Mr. Shaktiji, most of us may not know Mr. Shaktiji, and in fact, I don't actually remember having met him in person, but the first time the formal the virtual meeting was from the program, and then followed by the virtual meeting, actual meeting, and then constantly I've been hearing about Mr. Shaktiji from Dr. Nilzaji and Dr. Pinzok, and what I've been hearing from two of them, is extremely appealing and so the heartwarming, the characteristics, the wonders of the personality of Mr. Shaktiji. And so, in front of all my friends here, I'd like to make a request to Mr. Shaktiji. Please continue to serve the IBC. And I can feel that you have this purity in your heart. And I could feel that from how all these information that I get from these two young doctorates, the two young doctors. And I've been hearing a lot, so many touching anecdotes about you, so courageous, so proactive, and really wanting to make a difference in this nation. And this is what I truly admire, adore, and respect you. Please, never ever think of resigning from IBC. This is my request to you on behalf of all my friends here. And then our keynote speaker, the Professor Geshe Ngawam, the Padma Shri awardee, a great transformer in the academic institutions. We are very fortunate that we have Professor Ngawam here, and again, Professor K.T. Sarojee, who is so close to my heart. In fact, some of them very competent youngsters. When I see that they are left out, they have nobody to take care of them, I send them to Professor K.T. Sarojee, and somehow he'll make things happen. Wonders are being created by Professor K.T. Sarojee, while himself being extremely renowned scholar. And I really appreciate that we have three really the influential people here as our guides, and all the youngsters, all the participants, all everyone in the audience. I highly suggest that we just see how much we can learn from these three the figures here. And then the conference here, as our moderator, Mr. Tinsu Dumala the program of Tibet House, so well explained. This is what we do Tibet House here. In our own capacity, we organize many conferences, and the focus primarily on two areas. One is, the Buddhism with the other religious traditions, and then the intra-Buddhism, that is the Pali Tradition and the Sanskrit Tradition. This is one part. The other part is the Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist psychology versus the quantum physics and relativity theory and the neuroscience and the Western psychology. So these are the two major areas where Tibetans will focus on to convene conferences, dialogues, panel discussions, and so forth. This is one thing. And otherwise, the other scholarly activities where the youngsters are encouraged to delve into scholarly activities. These are the one part of the Tibetan programs. And for this program, for this conference, study, reflection, meditation, based on Buddhist literatures, what you find in Pali tradition about the study, reflection, meditation, in terms of the three main, the Tripitas, what is in the Vinaya, what you find in the Sutra, what you find in the Abhidhamma, and that also from the Sanskrit tradition. So not just one's own thoughts, but your thoughts reflected, meanwhile based on or can be traceable to the original sources of the Buddha's own teachings in terms of the Tripitaka. This is our aspiration, and then we are so glad that there are the scholars here, young scholars invited here, and this is mainly young scholars. And we can learn from these great teachers alongside from the scholars. So without much ado, of course, all the speakers, you have already prepared your presentations, how to relate the particular, the training, the three trainings, the one particular training that you are assigned to speak on, associated with the corresponding the sources and from your own tradition, be it Pali tradition or Sanskrit tradition. So this is what we are keen to learn from all of you. Okay, so with this, I pray success for this conference, success of this conference, and then later on we can have as many convergence coming together of the Buddhist scholars from the Theravada tradition, in other words, the Pali tradition, and from the Sanskrit tradition. And for information, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, as early as in 1960s, His Holiness already put so much effort to bring these two traditions together on the same platform as early as 1960s, where many of the speakers were yet to be born. And except like, I was not born then. Okay, His Holiness already made all this effort. And so now it is the continuation of these efforts, the seeds planted by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to bring the two brothers, the two sisters as the children of the same teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, come together, discuss, to appreciate each other's traditions and learn from each other. So this is our key. The point, the key point, and expectations, and our endeavor. So with this in mind, my congratulations, my thanks to all the speakers for your efforts to take out time for this program. And I'll stop here. Thank you so much. Best of luck, all the presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, Geshe-la. Now may I request our keynote speaker, Padma Shri Professor Geshe-la Samtila, to kindly deliver a keynote address. And I would like to give a brief introduction about Professor Geshe-la Samtila. Geshe-la studied at Central School for Tibetan in Chandagiri, Orissa, and thereafter at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies at Sarnath. He possesses a rare combination of education on modern lines as well as the Tibetan monastic system. He obtained Geshe Haramba degree from Gande Sharse Monastery, which is an equivalent to PhD degree in the modern higher education system. As a Vice Chancellor, he has contributed to the improvement of academic standards at the Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in Sarnath, particularly through teaching and research. He has been actively engaged in Hindi translations of Buddhist texts and Sanskrit and Tibetan. Geshe has published the definitive critical edition of Acharya Nagarjuna's Ratnavali with its commentary, and he is credited with an important publications such as a critical edition of the Panka Krama of Arya Nagarjuna and co-authored The Ocean of Reasoning, an annotated English translation of commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's Mulya Madhyamaka Mulakarika by the Tibetan masters thinker Lama Tsongkhapa, published by the Oxford University Press. This Ocean of Reasoning book is acclaimed far and wide, and in 2009 he was awarded with Padma Shri, one of the country's highest civilian award by the President of India for his distinguished services in the field of education and literature. In 2016, he has been awarded Vesak Samman by the Government of India in recognition of his outstanding lifelong achievement in the fields of preservation, development, and promotion of Indian philosophy, art, and culture within and outside India, as well as his lifelong services towards dissemination of Buddhist studies and establishment of academic institutions. Thank you, Geshe Ngasam Dilla. Please welcome Geshe Ngasam Dilla.
Greetings to all of you, and I really congratulate Tibet House and the Venerable Geshe for organizing the conference. This is very, indeed, very necessary that we are having contact with many other disciplines, science, and many other, non-religious and streams. At the same time, we have contact and conversations with other disciplines like economy, environmentalists, and things like that. And also, we have contact and conversation with the other religious, traditions like Christianity and Islam religion and the various different traditions of Hinduism. And why should not we have contact and conversation and close interaction within the Buddhism? In Varanasi, we have, as Geshe Dorje Abdullah said, that this kind of interaction is very much there in the mind of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and he has expressed his desire and inclination to this kind of approach. And on his direction, Central Institute of Higher Tibetan Studies in 2006, for the first time, I organized an international conference of Buddhism in Asia, inviting one lay scholar and one the monastics from 26 countries of Asia, and everybody was so happy. And His Holiness joined. He inaugurated and had lunch with them and had discussions with them. And everybody was of the view that why we shouldn't have this kind of meetings regularly, instead of at some occasionally, but we should have the conference of such kind regularly. And then after a few years, we also had a conference on Vinaya, inviting the existent three Vinaya traditions of Dhammagupta of Chinese tradition, and then the Theravada tradition and the Mul Sarvastiva tradition that the Tibetans have. So again, at that time, people from all these the traditions have kind of thinking that our tradition is the purest one, and they must have some fragmented, traditions. So when we came here, and for 3 days deliberation in a very detailed and extensive manner, it was all, in a closed door kind of a hall. We didn't have male, the lay participants, and so from second day onward, all the participant monks, we had very senior monks and young monks from all the, from Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Vietnam, and Taiwan, and of course, from Tibetan community. So everyone started thinking that, we all have exactly the same Vinaya tradition, and in practice also we have the same. And many of them suggested that why we shouldn't have our regular ritual poshat and things like that together, so that we can, do all these things without any kind of boundaries. And so that was the kind of the experience that the participants had. I think this effort very much appreciated, and we must come together, because we have the teaching Tripitaka, or the Tipitaka, whatever we say, and Shila, the Shila, Samadhi, and Panya, and we say the same thing. We have same content. There are some elaborations in Mahayana or the Sanskrit tradition, and there are certain reasons how that has been elaborated, because we can see that, once all these traditions, texts came into in Sanskrit, then there were lots of interactions from outside schools through the same kind of language. So therefore, the masters of Nalanda, Vikramashila, and Takshashila, they had interaction with the other schools, other Vedantin, Vaisheshikas, and Mimamsakas, Jainas, and all those schools. This interaction had been so profound and subtle and at a very high level that if anybody, third person, looks into those kind of interactions, they would appreciate each, both sides help each other to promote and to advance further. That is why in India, the epistemology, logic, and philosophy, the philosophical systems advanced so high, so to a very sophisticated. So that kind of interaction stopped, got stagnated after after the middle of the 13th century, because Buddhism disappeared from India, and there was no interlocutor for the philosophical exchanges. So that is one of the. So I want to go into those, but I'm given the topic wisdom and compassion as the as this is the kind of the theme that today we have. So wisdom and compassion, these are the most important key kind of concepts, key practices in Buddhism, because wisdom is not acquisition of knowledge, but wisdom here is a realization of reality. That is very important to understand. In the beginning, we may have earn or gain knowledge about the wisdom at during the study time, and then through contemplating. Through contemplation, we can think about, contemplate, analyze it, examine it, investigate it, and try to understand the nature of reality, right? So there are different kinds of nature of realities. And then after that, the stage comes of meditation. It has to be inculcated. It has to be, brought into it. The meditation, like the wisdom, which talks about the anatta, in Pali, and anatma in Sanskrit, nairatmya in Sanskrit. The nairatmya is not negating the self itself, but negating the substantial, existence of the self, right? So this has to be, because in Buddhism, this is a core element for the entire spiritual and intellectual kind of, system. In intellectual, this is very important, because through intellectual understanding, we have to, gain the spiritual, the realization through which we can liberate ourselves from suffering. And on the other hand, we have the compassion. Again, compassion is to have a concern for others, to have, to wish to remove others' suffering. And that is the general kind of the definition of compassion. But in Buddhism, we have the compassion which in the practice in which the practitioner encompasses the entire sentient beings, and then not only just concern for others' suffering, but wishful thinking of relieving others from suffering, but to resolve that I'm going to relieve them from suffering. So that kind of resolution, not for of sentient beings, but for the entire sentient beings. That is the great compassion, right? So there is a big the coordination or relation between wisdom and compassion. So even in just let me give you a very simple kind of example that suppose someone comes across with a person who is just madly behaving on the street, and then a person might feel irritated or disturbed by the behavior of that person. But once that person understands that the behavior of that person is not out of something else, but he is mentally retarded, or he has mental disturbance, or he is suffering a lot mentally, and that is why he is in such a situation. So if one understands that situation of that reality of that person, I'm not talking about a very high level of realization of reality, but a gross reality of mundane life, right? Even at that moment, by understanding the reality of that person's life, then the person's attitude, who was earlier disturbed, would completely change his attitude. He would have compassion towards that person, not only show compassion, but try to relieve that person from the suffering, right? So that is why the wisdom and compassion are intertwined. So we have such practices. I'm going beyond time. We have the wisdom led compassion, and compassion led wisdom. So at a grosser level, at a subtler and a higher level, when we think about the all sentient beings suffering from samsaric the dukkha, so at such a circumstance, then we meditate and contemplate the reality, the nature of the sentient beings. And then we come to know that unless we address the very ignorance of the sentient beings, that is ignorance of knowledge, but ignorance of reality of the Dhamma or self, right? So we need to go to that level, because the 12 limbs of the Paticca, the origin of all the limbs, or origin of our all the different kinds of afflictive mind, which lead the karmas, that is the ignorance, avidya. And the avidya, from avidya originates all the rest of the Paticca limbs. So therefore, when we are very much compassionate, concerned for other sentient beings, unless and until we have the realization of the reality of the ultimate reality of the nature of the self or phenomena, then we cannot be relieved from, we cannot get out of the psychic existence, right? So therefore, that is a compassion-led wisdom, right? And the other way around is we have understanding of once the person meditates and contemplates and studies and understands that the understanding of reality is something that only can lead us out of the psychic existence. So when one sees this sentient beings being caught in the web of the samsara, so that can being caught due to ignorance. So the meditator or the practitioner then naturally develops compassion. So that is wisdom-led compassion. So these are very much intertwined in Buddhism, either in Pali tradition or in Sanskrit tradition. These are extremely important kind of the core element in Buddhism. That we can see that in philosophical traditions or whatever in the entire world, anatta, anatma, or naratma has never been proposed by any philosophical school, right? There are some in the lately Western philosophical, they don't say it as anatma or something like that, but essencelessness, as you can see in Schopenhauer, in David Hume and Nietzsche, and many are reflected, but they came from Buddhist literature, and the sources are traced back to Buddhist literature. So the philosophical concept of anatma or naratma, essencelessness of phenomena or entity, it's a very fundamental kind of the essence of Buddhist philosophy that can lead the practitioners to the liberation. Without that, even in as I said, that not only with respect to liberation or arhathood or enlightenment, but in order to relieve ourselves from our daily kind of suffering, daily mundane gross suffering, it is important to understand the reality of that mundane level. That helps a lot to relieve us from that suffering, from those kind of sufferings, right? So I hope that the discussions will be very fruitful, and many of the scholars from all the traditions, both traditions, will deliberate and will be very beneficial to many of many of our friends who have joined this conference. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Asankala, for your wonderful talk. And now I would like to request Professor Karamtet Singh Sarauji to kindly chair the session. Before Professor chair the session, I would like to request our today's chief guest, Mr. Shakti Sanaji, I'm so sorry, to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you very, very much, Brendan, for asking me to speak. Listening to Professors Venerable Geshe Dorje Dandol, I feel deeply humbled. See, most of us like to think they are very good, but then somebody else says that, it actually brings you down to earth. You feel the sense of responsibility that much greater. So, Geshe-la, I hope to live up to the point that you have made. It was very moving to me and very powerful words from you. Geshe Samtanda, of course, we have been working together. Dr. Sarao, friends. I actually feel like I have no business speaking here really, because I'm in the company of such people who know so much about the subject which is very powerful and very important to all of us, I think. So let me just, of course, thank you for asking me to come here. Look forward to listening to everybody. Let me just spend a few minutes trying to say what are we trying to do at the International Buddhist Confederation, and then I'll square the circle and come back to wisdom and compassion. Now, the International Buddhist Confederation is a platform for the Buddhists of the world. Mahasanghas, Sanghas, the monasteries, scholars, the lay people. What we're now trying to do is play a larger catalytic role, because our job is not to do what you are doing. Scholars are doing your job, the monks are doing their job, the lay people are there, but to try and bring them together to bring about greater synergies. Because these are very challenging times in the world, whether it's COVID, whether it's climate change, and the dysfunctions that we see in society so largely. I think there is much greater need for us to pool our resources together and try to work way forward. Now, as an example, just to try to see how we are trying to do it, the Government of India's two ministries, the Institute of Cultural Relations and the Tourism Ministry, are holding a big set of events around Buddhism, mostly travel related. They have agreed to host a conference series of conferences actually on Global Buddhist Conclave, where the theme is Buddhism in literature, for which our friends from Nanda Mahadev have contributed. And we are doing these 4 regional conferences in India and 4 outside India, in Seoul, in Tokyo, in Phnom Penh, and in Bangkok. And in India, today itself, at the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics at Dharamshala, our first regional conference is going on. We'll have more such conferences. I need your help in Sarnath, in Hyderabad, and in Gangtok. We are doing this. And the idea is then to go on to the main conference in Nalanda on the 19th and 20th of November. Find scholars across. Challenging times, people can't travel. We are doing it mostly in hybrid mode. And learning from this, going forward, we intend to do more such events. Not as an event as much as knowledge sharing and developing these ideas further, generation of knowledge, so that what you have is shared with everybody else. What is the point of being a shining diamond in the room? Not the light is not goes up. So I think there is so much good knowledge available outside. And the more I listen to lectures, the more I listen to teachings, the more I feel that there's so much in the Indian traditions and otherwise that we should learn from. And next year going forward, we'll do more such things. I have been attending meetings in the past at Tibet House, whether it was watching the picture Kundan, or when Geshe-la had invited Professor Kapil Kapoor, or his other teachings, which I've attended, but last many years I've not been able to go. It's my feeling. Thanks to people like Ajit, who's I think here. I've been going to Deer Park, listening to Khensei Pote, whether listening to Dr. So I have, in my own way, been trying to learn and understand what is it that is different here that one doesn't see normally, and what are the misconceptions that we all have. One, of course, I'm so glad we grew up using the word Hinayan. Thank God that word is out, and we use the much proper word of Theravada. And of course, thank God, I'm so glad that you are bringing the traditions together. All traditions have various points of view, and one need not always agree to them, but even accepting them and listening to them, I think is a very strong effort. And that's this Buddhist, the Buddha Lama has been doing that since the 60s. I think is a very good tribute to his complete wisdom and compassion. Without that, I think that would not have happened. I've been listening to some of the discussions and through videos and to other people, Mind Live. And that is what I suddenly realized, that the word religion and dharma that we use in Hindi now are both words which have absolutely distorted our thinking. That's why I rather talk about the Buddhist traditions and the intellectual traditions and philosophical traditions, or in Hindi, Buddha Darshan. Because by making it an ism and a religion, we're somehow closing the doors to dialogue, closing the doors, taking that this ism means I alone have right. And I think this is exactly what it is not. It is experiential. And which is why what I learned from my little knowledge, I don't know why I'm sharing it, because it will look very simplistic and possibly even childish, is that any knowledge system which is based on experience, which is not based on I have told you therefore it must be right, and based on experience of life, nature, will necessarily be an ethical one. Because then you see the kind of interlinkages, you understand impermanence, and when you understand impermanence, suddenly you understand that all this I, be, myself, and there's very little meaning to go for it. And I think that is the power of Buddhist traditions that is so important to me. I always wondered, we all grew up again thinking that the word sympathy is a very good word, and we all felt a sympathetic person for charity. With time you realize that, and thanks to friends, thanks to teachings, it's not my knowledge. You understand that sympathy actually strengthens all the selfishness in you. But compassion, on the other hand, makes all the difference when I really don't count. And I was reflecting on a certain gentleman, whom I shall not name, it's not fair to name people, extremely knowledgeable, extremely knowledgeable, and yet extremely wanting things all the time. So I asked a common friend, why is it? He said he has knowledge, but he doesn't have wisdom because there is no compassion. And therefore, only when you have compassion to knowledge, that it really becomes wisdom and really becomes useful for other people. Becoming good for yourself is very good, but unless that has impact on others, I think it's not good enough. It's simply done 70 for others. I will not, again, as I said, I shouldn't be speaking all these things. I'm just in class 1 in that sense. And I have tremendous responsibilities that Yeshadorja Brahmana has said. So let me not take more of your time. Let me look forward to listening to the speakers. And we have very good speakers from both the Pali and the Sanskrit traditions. And even more is that in future, with your help and help of others not here just now, if we can do anything to push or to increase the level of intellectual and philosophical interactions, I think then I would feel that the IBC has done its job. Once again, thank you very, very much. It's a great honor for me to be here listening and to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Shakti Senaji. So, thank you, and it's been so profound that to be able to listen to your talk. And I would have introduced you before, but out of concomitant, I could not able to introduce you. So many of you may have known Mr. Shakti Senaji. So please allow me to introduce him. So Mr. Shakti Sena, he is a Director General, International Buddhist Confederation, and he's also an Honorary Director at Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute of Policy Research and International Studies at Maharaja Sayajirao University at Baroda. And he was also earlier a director at Nehru Memorial Museum and Library. And he belonged to the batch of 1979 of the Indian Administrative Service. And he worked in United Nations in Afghanistan for 3 years, and also for the Thich Tang in Singapore. And he has written one book on Vajpayee and edited many books. Thank you very much, Mr. Shakti Senaji, for your wonderful talk. And now I would like to request Professor K.T. Sarauji to kindly chair the session. So before I proceed, I would like to introduce about him. So Professor Sarau received a bachelor degree in history with the economics and master's in history, and MPhil in Chinese and Japanese studies, and PhD in Buddhism from Delhi University. And he was awarded with the prestigious Commonwealth Scholarship in 1985 to study at the University of Cambridge, from where he received his second PhD degree in archaeology in 1989. And he has been teaching at Delhi University and been a visiting professor at Dongguk University, South Korea, and many other different universities across the world. And he has published more than 250 research papers and articles. And in 2011, he has received P.S. Royal Buddhist University and conferred a degree of honoris causa on him. Thank you very much, Professor Sarauji, to kindly proceed the session. Thank you.
Very much. This is really a great honor to share this platform with so many venerables. Mr. Shakti Senaji, Director General IBC. He was my senior actually at Delhi University. We did history from Delhi University. Geshe-la Damdulji and Geshe-la Samtenji, my Kalyan Mitras. They are so very kind to me, and I've known them for many years. It's such wonderful people. I taught in a university in Taiwan as a young person. Actually, monks and nuns only, called Fakushan Tashwe, Chanshin. Over there, I had the opportunity for the first time to attend a meditation course in a very famous organization called Searchi, run by a nun called Master Changyan. She was the first nun, I think, in the world to actually be the sort of manager or CEO, or you could call owner of an organization run by a woman. And so I attended this meditation course for about 10 days over there. And she had a rule that your plate should be as clean as it was before you put food in it, when you finish your food.
Not a single grain of rice shall be left in it. And she very strictly enforced this rule in that organization. It was then I realized that all my life had been wasted. As a professor at Delhi University, where you have some of the most educated people in the world, I have seen throughout my life till I retired 2 years ago, that something like 90% of the professors put more food in their plate than they can eat. Well-educated person, like Sinaji was saying, there is a difference between getting education and being wise, or useful to the society, or useful to oneself. And occasionally I would walk up to a friend of mine, this professor, and say, Dr. Sahab, you have put, I think, more food, you have wasted food. Not only that, he would refuse to accept this fault, but would actually shout back. But one expects that even then this person would be careful next time. And you see this person putting more food next time. Why? What does this professor who has got maybe 2 PhDs like me, what does this person get by wasting food when we know actually hundreds of thousands of people die of starvation even today? And same is true of so many other things. The Buddha, of course, gives so many examples. One very important example that we from this Pali Sutras is Udumbar Khadik, a person who is a glutton, who wastes food, who eats more than this person should be eating. And the Buddha actually talks at length in one of the sutras about this kind of behavior of humans. And it is here that this kind of meditation comes into play, creating mindfulness. You realize that this is wrong and you don't do it. Though theoretically, my colleague at the university, these professors know wasting food is bad, but they still continue to waste it. So I think this kind of seminars are very important to promote meditation, the meditation traditions of different religious traditions of Buddhism. And I'm so really grateful to Geshe Damdalji and his team for organizing such a wonderful paper. Today we have experts, scholars from both all the traditions who will present their papers. One is Venerable Dr. Panahadove Jassasi. Dr. Jassasi, Venerable Jassasi is a senior lecturer in Buddhist civilization at the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies of the University of Sri Jayawardenepura in Sri Lanka. He is also a visiting professor at Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka, University of Kelaniya, and also University of Appamaññā. He has authored 7 books and more than 10 editions. He has compiled more than 50 research articles and has presented research papers at more than 30 national and international conferences. He engages not only in academic works, but also in different social services. The other speaker is Venerable Divul Pelase Vimalanandaji. Venerable Vimalanandaji graduated in 2007 with first-class honors, with many prestigious awards and prizes. In 2012, he obtained his PhD from the same university in Sri Lanka, and he is an expert in editing Pali texts since 2009. He has been working in the Dhammachaya Tibetan project in Thailand. The third speaker is Venerable Miris Wathathe Vimalagyan, a Theravada Buddhist monk. He is professor and head of the Department of Buddhist Culture at the Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies in Sri Lanka. He graduated from the University of Appamaññā, and since then he has served for 3 universities, including Bhikshu University of Sri Lanka and the University of Appamaññā. He is an active member of many academic organizations, including the Royal Asiatic Society of Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka Association of Buddhist Studies. Then we have Geshe Yeshi Choedu. He was born in Kunthar in 1973 in Gyalrong region, eastern Tibet. In 1981, he came to India after some years of elementary school in Tibet. He joined TCB school Dharamsala in 1985 and graduated class 12 in 1994. Then he joined Drepung Loseling Monastery the same year and became a Geshe in the year 2014 and had 1 year Tantra studies at Gilmid Tantric Monastery. Then the next speaker is Venerable Khenpo Tashit Sering. He is a professor in Buddhist philosophy at Central Institute, Sarnath, Varanasi. He obtained Acharya and doctorate from the same institute. He also studied at Sakya College, Dehradun and Zonkar Institute, Kangra. Since 1989, he has been teaching at Central Institute of Higher Studies, Sarnath. He visited twice at 5 colleges USA as a visiting professor to teach Buddhist religion and philosophy for 2 semesters. He has more than 20 publications. At present, he is the head of the department for 4 major Tibetan Buddhist schools, librarian of the Institute, Chief Vigilance Office, Chief Coordinator for the exchange program between CIHTS and 5 colleges of USA. Then we have Dr. Nilza Wangmo, one of my students actually. I'm very proud of her. Dr. Nilza Wangmo got her bachelor's degree from Lady Shri Ram College, Delhi University. Then she did her master's and MPhil in Buddhist Studies from Delhi University, my department, Buddhist Studies. Thereafter, she went to JNU and did her PhD in 2018 from there. She has been a UGC JRF Fellow. She was a participant at the Mind and Life Summer Research Institute at Garrison, New York in 2016. She worked for the global launch of Social, Emotional and Ethical Learning in New Delhi 2019. She has conducted online courses in Nalanda Buddhist Philosophy at Central Institute of Buddhist Studies, Leh, in 2020. She is currently working for the IBC as a research assistant. Her area of interest is the Buddhist concept of mind and its comparison to brain in neuroscience. I welcome all these scholars, and I am really grateful to Geshe-la Santenji, sorry, Geshe-la Santenji and Geshe-la Damdul, my Kalyan Mitra, for inviting me to chair this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sarauji. Now I would like to request our first speaker, Professor Panahadwe Yasasiji, to kindly present your talk.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Before starting my presentation, I would like to warmly welcome and congratulate to this virtual conference. First of all, Professor Samten and Venerable Geshe Dorji, Professor Mirisathe Vimalanyana and Dr. Divulpalase Vimalananda and all the members of the Mahasangha and other distinguished scholars, Professor KTS Sarao, the chair of the session, and all the academicians who are gathered here in the virtual platform to this conference organized by the Tibet House, New Delhi. So today the presentation that I am going to do is the higher training of wisdom according to Visuddhimagga. So that is belong to the Pali tradition. As we know, both Sanskrit and Pali traditions are dealing with in this conference. Therefore, I would like to draw my attention on higher training of wisdom in according to Pali tradition with reference to Visuddhimagga. That is the title of today's research paper. So at the inception of my presentation, I would like to introduce what is Visuddhimagga. Here I have referred Visuddhimagga under the abbreviation VM, so that getting easy to mention in the advance in next slides. So it is written in 5th century AD in Sri Lanka As most of you know, the author of Visuddhimagga was Venerable Buddhaghosa, and it could be recognized as the manual of Theravada Buddhism. The basically the manual, why we call Visuddhimagga as the manual of Theravada Buddhism. It basically talks about the essence of Buddhist teachings. So, in the background of the Visuddhimagga, as we know, it is stated in Sri Lankan chronicles and other texts regarding the compilation of Visuddhimagga. It is a compendium compiled commenting on 2 stanzas from Devata Samyutta of Samyutta Nikaya. Once a deity who approached the Buddha made a kind of a statement like Anto Jata Bahijata Jataya Jatita Paja Tantang Gotama Puchami Koimang Vijate Jata. So, as a response to this stanza, Buddha pointed out the replying stanza Sile Patittaya Naro Sapanyo Chittam Panyanta Bhavayang Atapi Nipako Bhikkhu Soimang Vijate Jata. So these 2 stanzas are the causes for the compilation of Visuddhimagga, and it had been compiled by Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera, who came to Sri Lanka with the intention of translating Sinhalese commentaries into Pali language in order to get the permission from Mahavihara Bhikkhus to translate the Sinhalese commentaries into Pali language according to the chronicles in Sri Lanka. So let's move on to the meaning of the term Visuddhi. Before talking about the higher training of wisdom, here the term Visuddhi is used to denote the same idea to Nibbana. As far as concerned in the early Buddhist context, early Buddhist texts, the term Visuddhi have been used to denote the meaning of Nibbana or emancipation. Nibbana provides the meaning as happiness, contentment, and peace. Also, Nibbana is so called because it blows out the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion, as mentioned in early Buddhist text. So therefore, when these fires are blown out, peace is attained, and as a result, one becomes completely cooled. The individual who experiences Nibbana in this very life is called as Siti Bhuta or cold person. Taking this meaning into consideration, the term Nibbana into consideration, Venerable Buddhaghosa have named this compendium as Visuddhimagga in the sense of path of purification or path of emancipation. So here, as far as concerning the entire content of the Visuddhimagga, we can clearly identify how Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera, how commentator Buddhaghosa Thera has explained the threefold training as the path to purification in Visuddhimagga. As we know, Sila, morality, Samadhi, concentration, and Panya, wisdom. This threefold training are elaborated in Visuddhimagga in terms of Satta Visuddhi, which is known as sevenfold purification. Let's move on to the barriers for the higher training of wisdom. Before talking about when we are talking about the higher training of wisdom, HTW, I have stand for HTW. We have to identify the barriers for the higher training of wisdom as found in Visuddhimagga. Venerable commentator Buddhaghosa has discussed in detail regarding the barriers for the higher training of wisdom. It is it has been pointed out in threefold: desire, raga, hatred, dosa, and delusion, moha. They are the central intrinsic defilements as pointed out in Buddhism that are considered the barriers for the higher training of wisdom. Let's move on to the various aspects of these three defilements as discussed in the Theravada Buddhism in terms of various generic terms. You know, the defilements in Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism in Pali Tradition has been defined and classified into different names and different terminologies. Here you can see the 10 fetters, the 10 corruptions, dasa sanyojana, dasa kilesa, 10 wrongness, dasa michchata, like that, a list of generic terms. A list of generic terms have been pointed out in Buddhist tradition to mention the barriers to the higher training of wisdom. So let's move on to next next idea regarding the understanding of the human nature. So Visuddhimagga clearly points out, before talking about the path leading to the cessation of suffering in Visuddhimagga, it has clearly pointed out the importance of understanding the human nature for higher training of wisdom. According to Visuddhimagga, individual is analytically explained as the 5 aggregates, skandha, 10 bases, ayatana, the 18 elements, dhatu, and is synthetically discussed in the formula of conditioned genesis we call paticca samuppada. So the nature of the human nature is ever subject to change, ever changing and mutually conditioned series of phenomena. So that is the nature of the human being. Therefore, Visuddhimagga symbolically pointed out how the lifespan of the human beings are under the subjected to the change or impermanence. Kammattana Nirdesa of Visuddhimagga clearly pointed out the tenfold the periods of the lifespan. So it is called Dasa Dasaka. In that Kammattana Nirdesa of Visuddhimagga clearly pointed out how a person span his life in according to different decades. The period of childhood we call Manda Dasaka, Kidda Dasaka, adolescence, Vanna Dasaka, adulthood, Bala Dasaka, strengthening period, Panya Dasaka, wisdom period, and the physical decay, Hayana Dasaka, Pabbara Dasaka, distortion of physical body, Vanka Dasaka, having crooked body, Momuha Dasaka, mental distortion, and Sayana Dasaka, period of occurring death. So basically, the Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera in Visuddhimagga clearly pointed out how lifespan of the human beings are subjected to change over by the decades, each decades. Why this is important is Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera having explained the human nature and the nature of the impermanence that the human beings are faced every second, every moment, and every day and every time. He has also identified the human characters based on the human nature. As you know, the human nature is always changing. In the same way, the characteristics of the human beings are also the significant. It is also the difference. No, all the humans are same in the universe. All are each and everyone are different from each other. That diversity is clearly pointed out in Visuddhimagga, so that giving remedies to to overcome the suffering and all the calamities in the that we face in our life. Basically, it is pointed out in Visuddhimagga that 6 types of individuals according to their characteristics or the characteristics: desire, raga, hatred, dosa, deluded, moha, faithful, saddha, intelligent, buddhi, speculative, vitakta. So these are the classification of the humans into 6 categories according to their nature. Why this understanding of human nature is important? So that giving remedies and so that giving certain kind of practices to overcome all the sufferings, it is important to understand the human nature. So here in Visuddhimagga, Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera significantly prescribes in the Visuddhimagga the strategies to attain higher training of wisdom, which addresses in the light of the characteristics of each 6 members. So further, this Kammatthana Nirdesa of Visuddhimagga clearly pointed out the meditative subjects, Kammatthanas, and 6 that equivalent to the 6 characteristics as follows. No similar subjects can be practiced by each and every individual in the universe, since their human nature is different from each other. Therefore, Visuddhimagga clearly pointed out how the certain temperaments and the kammattanas have been prescribed in the Visuddhimagga so that attaining the supreme bliss. So here in this table you can see the desired characters, raga charita, 10 unpleasant objects, asubhas, and the mindfulness with regard to the body, kayanupassana. So hatred, those characters who have the hatred nature, for sublime abodes, Brahmaviharas, and for one kasinas have been prescribed. In the same way, the deluded characters, moha charita, mindfulness on in and out breathing, anapana sati, have been prescribed in the Visuddhimagga. In the same way, saddha, faithful characters, 6 kinds of recollection, anusati, recollection of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, of morality, liberality, and heavenly beings have been prescribed to the faithful, the characters who have the faithful nature. In the same way, the intelligent, buddhi characters, recollection of death, marananusati, recollection of peace of mind, peace of nibbana, upasamanusati, analysis of the 4 elements, chatudhatu avattana, have been prescribed to the intelligent characters. Finally, the speculative vitakta characters, the anapanasati, again mindfulness on in and out breathing, have been prescribed. Here, according to this classification made by Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera in his compilation, in his compendium, Visuddhimagga, it is clearly identified how he has paid attention to the how he has matched both human nature as well as the different strategies and practices, so that practice in meditation that is very important to understand in order to attain the higher training of wisdom. Then further, as far as concerning the Visuddhimagga, it has given the advanced practices for higher training of wisdom in Visuddhimagga. After the Panya Bhumi Nirdesa and other Nirdesas, other chapters of Visuddhimagga clearly mentions how the advanced practices for higher training of wisdom have been put forwarded by Venerable Buddhaghosa Thera, so that attaining the higher training of wisdom. Here it is mentioned in the Visuddhimagga. It elaborates in terms of sevenfold purification, Satta Visuddhiyo. Purification of conduct, Sila Visuddhi. Purification of mind, Chitta Visuddhi. Purification of view, Ditti Visuddhi. Purification of by overcoming doubt, Kanka Vitarana Visuddhi. Purification by knowledge and insight into the right and wrong path, Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhi. Purification by knowledge and insight into progress, Patipada Jnana Dassana Visuddhi. And the last one says purification of knowledge and insight into the noble path, Jnana Dassana Visuddhi. So out of these 7 stages of the purification, it is clearly pointed out how gradually the one who practices meditation could be reached to the higher training of wisdom, gradual path, by using the gradual path. So what is the relationship between this threefold training and Satta Visuddhi? It is clear that first purification is represented by Sila. First purification means, Sila Visuddhi, that is represented by the Sila. And the second purification is represented by Samadhi, that is called Chitta Visuddhi, purification of mind, which is related to Samatha and Vidarshana, Vipassana meditation. So the second purification of the second purification is related to the Samadhi. And from that, third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh, it means last 5 purifications are represented by Panya. So what we can identify is Ditti Visuddhi, Kanka Vitarani Visuddhi, Magga Magga Jnana Dassana Visuddhi, Patipada Jnana Dassana Visuddhi, and Jnana Dassana Visuddhi. These 5 purifications are represented by Panya. So therefore, these 7 characteristics of the purification clearly shows us how path we can trace to attain the higher training of wisdom. On the other hand, out of the 7 stages of purification, the first 6 belong to the mundane world, while the last stage of purification by knowledge of vision is a supramundane, according to according to my point of view. Therefore, what we have to identify is, since the time limitation, I am not going to explain each purifications in detail in my presentation. However, this clearly pointed out, in order to attain the higher training of wisdom, one has to gradually practice these 7 purifications gradually, so that understanding the real nature of the universe, that is called attaining enlightenment. The last stage includes the supramundane state of the path, extreme entry, which we call Sotapanna, once returner, Sakadagami, non-returner, Anagami, Arahant. These, by practicing these 4 steps one by one, again one can attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana, having enlightened higher training of wisdom. So therefore, in Buddhism, Theravada Buddhism in Pali Tradition clearly mentions that if a person needs to attain the enlightenment, having eradication of all the defilements and all the cankers, they have to practice these things, so that obtaining this enlightenment, this understanding, the path that has been elaborated in Buddhism is the practicing of meditation as well as practicing of the Noble Eightfold Path. Therefore, dear Dhamma friends, in this academic session, I would like to wind up my short presentation regarding the higher training of wisdom according to Visuddhimagga. Thanks for patience hearing and listening to my presentation. Thank you very much for inviting me to this for the organizers of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Dr. Panahadweji, for your talk. And our second speaker, Professor Divulapalasi Vimalananda, is going to speak on various Samadhi method techniques for a higher training of Samadhi according to Pali Sutra. So kindly.
Most venerable sir, professors, doctors, and distinguished guests, my dear Dhamma brothers and sisters, I am very much happy to join with this grateful, successful conference from the collaborating Pali Traditions. My topic going on various Samadhi methods, techniques for higher training Samadhi according to Pali Sutra. We all know various Pali Sutras explain deeply about Samadhi meditation concentration method. Among them, in this presentation, very few sutta I trying to point it out in here in this type. First of all, I would like to give brief introduction about on this topic. Firstly, we all know what is the meaning of Samadhi. Samadhi, everyone easily translate as concentration, or actually it is real meaning going on the mental state of being firmly fixed. As well, many suttas Samadhi explain as chittase kagata. It is meaning going on one pointedness of mind. As well, considering the eightfold path, one point explained as Samma Samadhi. That point we translate that right concentration as the last link of eightfold path. Then the highest state of mental concentration that people can be achieved when bound to the body, and which unity them with the highest reality. Samadhi, we can say that is the state of profound and utterly absorptive contemplation of the absolute that is undisturbed by desire, anger, or any other ego-generated thought or emotion. Considering Pali commentaries, in concentration are distinguished basically three grades of intensity. Here I pointed out what are the three categories. Parikamma Samadhi, preparatory concentration, we can explain as existing at the beginning of the mental exercise. Second one pointed out as Upachara Samadhi. We can translate that point as neighborhood concentration. Furthermore, we can say as concentration approaching but not yet attaining the first absorption jhana, which in certain mental exercise is marked by the appearance of the so-called counter image, patibhaga nimitta. Then last one mentioned as Appana Samadhi, attainment concentration, that concentration which is present during the absorption. Then concentration is one of the 7 factors of enlightenment, Bodhanga. We know 7 Bodhanga as Sati, Dhamma, Vijaya, Viriya, Piti, Passaddhi, Samadhi and Upekka. The Sati, mindfulness, Dhamma, Vijaya, investigation, Viriya, energy, Piti, joy, Passaddhi, relaxation, Samadhi, concentration and Upekka, equanimity. As well, one of the 5 spiritual faculties and powers we call as Pancha Bala, Saddha, faithful, Viriya, energy, Sati, mindfulness, and Samadhi, concentration, and Panya, wisdom. And the last link of the Eightfold Path. As well, in the threefold division of the Eightfold Path, we divide into 3 categories: Sila, morality, Samadhi, concentration, and Panya, wisdom. It is a collective name of the 3 last link of the path. At its most profound and skillful usefulness, it is concentration developed within the framework of the Eightfold Path that directly brings cessation of all. I'm going to start my discussion in
Yes.
actually in Samadhi Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. The discourses on mental concentration mention 4 uses of benefits of mental concentration. It shows the proper use of dhyana meditation practice with the broader framework of the Eightfold Path. There are 4 qualities that are developed from concentration. Concentration, when developed and practiced, lead to 4 categories. First one is Ditta Dhamma Sukha Viharaya. It is meaning developing peace and calm here and now. Second one is Jnana Dassana Patilabhaya. It is meaning going on developing useful knowledge and true vision. Third one is Sati Sampajanyaya, developing refined mindfulness and attentiveness. And last one, Asavanang Kayaya, developing the cessation of craving, aversion and delusion. In this way, within 4 parts, we can develop and practice Samadhi meditation according to the Samadhi Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. Among them, I would like to focus first point, developing peace and calm here and now, or mental concentration for happiness. Ditta Dhamma Sukha Viharaya. How does the development of concentration lead to peace and calm here and now? It is very important. The one who reached the engaged in the first jhana may believe that he is free from all depravities. Nevertheless, he is still not free, as the method is not the accepted practice to discard defilements in the noble discipline. In Salleka Sutta explained about first jhana, Vivicheva Kamehi, Vivicha Akusalehi Dhammehi, etc. When properly engaged in dhyana meditation, one is withdrawn from sensuality and unskillful mental qualities. They enter and remain in the first jhana, delight and pleasure born of withdrawal and accompanied by focus through and insight. Considering second jhana, as concentration deepens further, they enter and remain in the second jhana. Focus, thoughts and insight is still. Delight and pleasure born of comfort and inner assurance arise. About the third jhana, as concentration deepens further, they enter and remain in the third jhana. Delight and pleasure and the perception of pleasure and pain disappear. Equanimity and refined mindfulness increases and a peaceful mind prevails. In last jhana, as concentration deepens further, they enter and remain in the fourth jhana. Mindful equanimity prevails. Greed and aversion disappear. This is the development of concentration that brings peace and calm here and now. And second point is developing useful knowledge and true vision. Jnana darsana patilabhaya. Mental concentration to gain the divine eye. How does the development of concentration lead to developing useful knowledge and true vision? As concentration deepens, distraction subsides. Even the passing from day to night and night to day is free of disturbance. The mind is bright and spacious. This is the development of concentration that brings useful knowledge and true vision. In Pali Sutta mentioned as Aloka Sanyang Manasi Kareyasi Diva Sanyang Adityayasi, like this way. And considering psychological terms, the perception of light is also useful in keeping the mind bright in a positive sense, which prevents or cures depressive and negative mental state. In Mahasaropama Sutta, given one point about that, the Buddha refers to a person who is looking for hardwood in a tree. Through his search, that man realized that the leaves, branches, or the bark, and not hardwood, but mistakenly take the sap as hardwood. It explained in Sutta as Puriso Sarattiko Saragavesi Saraparyesamanang in this way. In Saropama Sutta, we can point it out through this practice help to cultivate knowledge. It is not the core or the hardwood of the Dhamma. In considering the third point, developing refined mindfulness and attentiveness, sati sampajaññāya, mental concentration for mindfulness and clear comprehension. Here, a very important thing is how does the development of concentration lead to developing refined mindfulness and attentiveness. As concentration deepens, the impermanence of feeling, perception, and thoughts are understood. This is the development of concentration that brings refined mindfulness and attentiveness. The practitioner will experience the origin, persistence, and passing away of sensation, perception, and mental application. However, it is not to be mistaken as the insight meditation explained in the teaching. The techniques aim to observe expressively the arising, persisting, and passing away of sensation, perception, and mental application with mindfulness. Then the person who attains the state of concentration through mindfulness and clear comprehension is able to grasp sensation, perception, and mental application expressively, enable him to be free from attachment and aversion. This method of concentrating on the origin of sensation, it is persistence and passing away, is not how the Buddha described the conditions. Rather, it is what the experience by oneself as a mundane practice. It is also evident here that with mindfulness and clear comprehension, the person meditates on what he has formed in mind as sensations, perception, and mental application, and observing its origin, persistence, and cessation. And last one, developing the cessation of craving, aversion, and delusion. Asavana kayaya, mental concentration for is spiritual liberation. How does the development of concentration lead to developing the cessation of craving, aversion, and delusion? The fourth form of mental concentration enable relinquishment of cankers. Here, the practitioner observes a rising and passing away of the 5 clinging aggregates by meditating on this is the form, this is the sensation, this is the perception, this is the formation, this is the consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. This is its origin, this is its cessation in this way. This is the recommended mental concentration that brings about relinquish of cankers. As concentration deepens, one remains attentive to the rising and passing away of the 5 clinging aggregates, Panchupada. They know the impermanence of form, Rupang Anichang, of feeling, Vedana Anicca, of perception, Sanya Anicca, of mental fabrication, Sankara Anicca, and of consciousness, Vijnana Anicca. This is the development of concentration that brings the cessation of craving, raga, aversion, dosa, and delusion, moha. Finally, I concluded here, pointed out one paragraph from Mahaparinibbana Sutta. Iti silang, iti samadhi, iti panya. Sila paribhavito samadhi, mahappalo hoti mahanisanso. Samadhi paribhavita panya, mahappala hoti mahanisansa. Panya paribhavitan chittang, sammadeva asavehi vimucchati, seyatidang, kamasava, bhavasava, avijjasavati. Its meaning is, this is morality, this is concentration, this is wisdom. Concentration, when inspired with morality, brings great fruits and profit. Wisdom, when inspired with concentration, brings great fruit and profit. The mind inspired with wisdom becomes completely free from the corruption, that is, from the corruption of sensuality, of becoming, of false views, and of ignorance. Thank you very much for your kind attention for me. Again, I would like to thank for Tibet House Conference team for giving me this great opportunity.
Thank you very much, Professor Vimalanandaji. And our next speaker, Venerable Professor Mirishwate Vimalananga, who's going to speak on practice of compassion Appamaññā for immeasurables according to Pali Tradition. Professor, could you start the session? Thank you.
Good afternoon, probably. I should thank Tibetan House for organizing this wonderful conference, and I'm honored to talk to this intellectual gathering. I should also thank to Venerable Keshe, and also Professor Something, and also Chairperson Professor Sarao. I met Professor Sarao 2 years ago in Gautama Buddha University, some 2 years ago. After since then, I have not seen him. I have not met him, and good to see him today. And okay, coming to my presentation, basically I should tell you that my talk is not, of course, a research paper, because this is a very, very long, broader area, which is very difficult to cover. I mean, it's not. I mean, if I'm trying to do it in terms of research paper, I might miss a lot of important things. So my intention is to convey some glimpses of how the Pali tradition has sort of observed and treated compassion and wonderful emotions called Appamaññā. Okay, let me share my presentation. Practice of compassion, Appamaññā for immeasurables. Now, compassion, I think, is a very broader idea now. Probably it can cover most of the the emotions, the mental states that we are going to talk about. But when it comes to Buddhism, actually, compassion is one thing, and it is one of the components of a cluster called Appamaññā or Brahmavir. Now, dealing with this particular theme, I would like to talk about some of these things. So, from now, healthy emotions, the most needed. I will talk a bit about that aspect, and then Brahmavir and Apomanya, the difference between these two concepts, and also the textual explanations on how Appamaññā and the pervasion of Appamaññā or Brahmavihara, and then a little bit about psychology, not the modern Western psychology, but how we can understand the psychology within the Pali text. That is what I'm going to discuss. So now these are Brahmavihara or Appamaññā are actually some of the great emotions that arise in the human mind. So there are emotions. Now today we are talking about the necessity of the emotions. So we have all these systems, political systems and different types of laws and our own reasoned thoughts. But when you come to the feeling aspect of human beings, what is most necessary, one of the most important aspects is the existence of emotion. Now, for example, if you look what happened when the refugees from different countries, like for example Syria, gathered at the American borders. Now, there were different laws, even which are capable of stopping these people, but there was emotions functioning, and there was some kind of changes and changes of the laws, compromisations of the standpoints, and they were absorbed and taken into those countries. We saw how thousands of people were killed when the tsunami hit different regions in this part of the world. And actually, in concern with Sri Lanka, there's no any person who was in hunger during that time. So there are a lot of examples about the significance. I mean, talking globally and internationally and locally, we can give hundreds of thousands of examples of the significance of emotion. In the past, there was actually some doubt about the emotion. For example, now people are thinking because of the emotion, we can be cheated by some other people. Emotions can cover our knowledge. So these kind of ideas are there. But now we have come to the idea that whole decisions are not the real decisions, not the true and the effective decisions that you are taking. We need emotions. So Brahmaviharas are a set of great emotions that human beings generate in their minds. So now what we are doing here is to understand these emotions in terms of Pali text. So I confined my presentation to Pali text alone. Okay, now if you need some definitions about immeasurables, basically this is how they are explained in the Pali text. So Mytha, these are the Brahmaviharas, so immeasurables. First one is Mytha, loving kindness. The second one is, as I said, it is one of the four, Karuna, compassion. The third one is Mudita, called altruistic joy. And the last one is Upekha, equanimity. So the text explains the first one, that which inclines one to a friendly disposition, a friendly attitude actually. And at the same time, a wish that, that is metta, and wish that may all beings be well and happy. So it is a friendly attitude, and at the same time, it's a wish for others to be well and happy. When you come to karuna, it is the mental state of the righteous one. The righteous one, okay, the word is given there, the righteous one, that gently strikes the heart at others' misery. Paradukha means others' misery. Hade kampana means a shaking or a kind of strike in the heart. Hade kampana karoti. It's a kind of sympathy, as aspiration to find a way to be truly helpful to oneself and others. And the third one is a kind of, but here the important thing is there should be a kind of misery relating to one or the other, some person, or a human being, or a life form. And in this case, there is happiness. Happiness in others being happy, endowed with good comfort and non-dissociation from the loud. Okay, so when you see the other people are comfortable, they're very good and very happy, that is what we call mudita. And the last one is maintaining a mental equilibrium at pleasure and pain becomes evident due to one's own karma. Karma is associated here, but it's not all the time. So we can say some of the references. The people become maintain some equanimity without any kind of association or without any dealing with karma. For example, mother might think of his child without any consideration of karma. So karma is one possibility, but not all the time. So for all the time, there should not be there may not be an involvement of karma. So difference between Brahmavihara and Appamaññā. Actually, Brahmavihara is, as you see, is a term signifies emotion associated with Brahma. But when you say normally we tend to think that Brahmavihara is a word derived from the Brahman, the creator, but it is not so. It's Brahma, not the creator. Actually, here the Brahma means the beings in the pure abodes, that is the Brahma Loka. So that's the normal idea that we have is not the thing here. So actually, the Brahma here means the beings who live in the pure abodes. Who are these Brahman beings? Those who get material jhanas and immaterial jhanas, and as a result of that, they born in the pure abodes in the Brahma world. So these are the beings who have Brahma Viharas, who can pervade Brahma Viharas, who meditate on, concentrate on Brahma Viharas. So that is what Brahma here, not the creator God. And also you can identify a sort of Brahmas within these groups. Not the creator God. Those who practice Brahma Viharas here in this human realm, even the people who practice Brahma Viharas here in this world are also Brahmans. And at times parents, because the parents have these Brahma Viharas in case of their children. So you can now the Brahma Vihara, you can Brahma Vihara practice can be seen in the Brahmas living in the pure abodes, and also among those who practice Brahma Viharas in the human realm, as well as in the parents towards their children. The Brahma signifies the greatness and the purity. Okay? They are the great because they are right practices towards beings. As how the beings in the pure abode, Brahmano, remain with faultless mind. Brahmas in the pure abodes are very faultless. Remain with faultless mind. Those yogins who are endowed with Brahma Vihara exist similar to Brahma. So yogins are there. There are yogins who practice Brahma Viharas. They are also Brahmans in some way. Not the creator group, but they are equal to the Brahmans in the pure abodes. That is the idea. And in some context, the parents, when they have these emotions towards their children, they are also can be recognized as Brahmans. Brahma as interpreted in Buddhism, parents as Brahman. Now sometimes there are textual references. Parents are identified or interpreted or identified as Brahman, as they have these emotions towards children. They are similar to Brahman. And Appamaññā is not actually a word coming in the Sutra. Appamaññā is a designation given in the Abhidhamma. This is found in the Abhidhamma. The Visuddhimagga inquires into why Brahma Viharas were called Appamaññā in the Abhidhamma. Visuddhimagga, as Venerable Dr. Yasasi was talking about Visuddhimagga, and he mentioned what this text is. And in the Visuddhimagga, the text inquires why this term is identified or called as Appamaññā. These emotions are called Appamaññā in the Abhidhamma. So it's very clear that Abhidhamma Appamaññā is a late connotation to Brahma Viharas. And what is that? And all these four qualities are intended to be extended towards immeasurable number of beings. Okay, that is the reason why the word was given, Appamaññā was given. So immeasurable number of beings. So the number of people you can pervade metta Brahmaviharas are limitless, is limitless. This is why the four are called immeasurable in the Abhidhamma. Even in case of single being, there is no any limitation of context to pervade immeasurables. Now, if you look at other meditation, for example, breath, only breath. So your concentration totally focused on breath. And if it is a coughing, only coughing. If it is feelings, if it is on feelings, only the feelings are concentrated, not rest of the things. But when it comes to Appamaññā, even the one single person can be pervaded metta in many different contexts in his throughout his or her life. So that is what it means. Now, Pali text is given here. I am not going to read it, but I think you can understand what I mean. In the Abhidharma psychology, psychophysical factors are enumerated precisely. Now, this is what Abhidharma does actually. Most of these psychophysical factors are precisely counted in Theravada tradition 170. Okay, in the Yogacara tradition 100 dharma. So it's precise. There is a precise number. So here in the Theravada tradition also the same. There are immeasurables are included in the mental concomitant. So we have a word called chaitasika or chetasika in Pali, chaitasika in Sanskrit, chaita in the Sarvativada tradition. In the Theravada tradition, there are 52 chetasikas. So they are included in chetasika. So they are one of the paramartha dharma. So ultimate reality. This is the big term. Ultimate realities are the dharmas which, according to Theravada tradition, which exist at the ultimate end of experience. So if you divide something into dharmas, you cannot divide above there, because that is the extreme limit of experience. So dharma is an extreme limit of experience. So it's one of the chaitasika, and it is a paramartha, indicating the extreme limit of perception. In Abhidharma, metta comes as adosa. The metta here is adosa. And it's not old name was changed, now it is adosa, because that is the fundamental, meaning, fundamental phenomenon. And upekka and tatramanjataka, old name was changed, neutrality of mind. And other two, that is karuna and mudita, and their old names, the sutta names are given to them. The four are not presented as a cluster. Now, the thing was that in this Abhidharma classification, there was no possibility to put them as a cluster. They are put in different sections. So the old name was changed, a different name was given, Appamaññā, which means the immeasurable, and then they were put in different sections. Now they are not as a cluster, but karuna and mudita are put together, so they are put together, so they are identified together. Mental concomitants are mind object. This is the problem that I am having, because in the Abhidharma, actually, my understanding is Abhidharma is a text, is a body of knowledge composed to support meditation, higher training. So here, actually, metta, karuna doesn't have anything to do with the figure, the form. It is totally a mental concomitant. So now I have this idea. Cannot we develop? Now we need a person to pervade metta, karuna, mudita, and upekka. But if it is totally a mental phenomenon, that is a chaitasika, isn't it possible for us to develop this as a mental concomitant? It's a mental factor. Because I have some experience that when I develop meditative experience, when I develop metta to a certain level, there is a possibility that we can omit the form, the person, and then actually we can develop that mental state alone. So therefore, I think that now we are talking about the expansion of metta at a certain level. We are talking about the expansion of metta throughout the universe. So I think in that case, how is it possible for us to keep a form, a person in this expansion? So it is always possible that a mental concomitant is expanded. So that is a question. But the thing is that in the discourses, we don't have example for that. Especially not in the discourse. Of course, in the commentaries, we don't have descriptions about details about expansion of mental states alone. That is one aspect that I'm thinking about. Okay, now textual elaboration on the pervasion of Appamaññā. According to Kathavaktu, this is how it is explained. Hatred actually is against, when you have hatred, loving kindness is the meditation prescribed. Cruelty or torture, compassion, dislike, altruistic joy is the meditation prescribed. And then if you have detachment, patigha, that is the equanimity is prescribed as a meditation. So here it is as a meditation. The commentary, the Attasalini and the Visuddhimagga says equanimity is suitable not for the detachment, but for suitable for one is endowed with desire. My idea is both are together, because equanimity is neither attachment nor detachment. So when you say equanimity, I think both are okay. If you say yes, equanimity is good for desirous character, that is also correct. Equanimity is good for effective for hatred character, desire character or hatred character, both are okay, because that is upekka, neither attachment nor detachment. Loving kindness should be cultivated to eradicate hatred. This is another Sutra difference. Metta bhavitabha vyapadasa pahanaya. All the four meditative objects and can be cultivated in order to attain trances. So one of the important thing in this case is that they are capable of generating trances, that is jhana, trances and liberation. In terms of metta, the relief of mind. In terms of metta, the relief of mind, metta ceto vimutti is possible. So the metta can generate what we call metta ceto vimutti, which is a meditative experience. With the determination that once whatever evil done in the past might fruit here and they might not accompany one in the future, one can attain relief of mind that is conducive for non-returning. So now here this word non-returning, metta ceto vimutti anagamitaya samvattati. So it talks about anagamita, not about arhanship, not about Buddhahood, not about arhanship, but it talks about anagamita. So there is a person who concentrates, okay, I am cultivating metta because to end my own evils. I don't need to take all these evils to my future life. So they meditate, and the final result is that they become anagamita. I mean, they're not coming back to this world. That is the, they are not coming back to this world. That is what we call anagamita, non-returner. They become non-returner, right? So now what is said is here, actually, it is not liberation. Now it looks like, but the hint here is that metta is a meditation which is on the side of samatha rather than vipassana. Because this is this is a very good meditation for samatha concentration, but this is not a meditation on the most effective meditation for the vipassana side, because it seems vipassana and samatha in case of metta or for immeasurables seem to be two different things rather than one thing. I mean, the outcome of one thing. So this is, there are other references to say the same thing. At higher training, Vipulena Mahaggatena. So always we are talking about Vipula Mahaggata is our terms related to jhana. Appamanena, it is advised to pervade metta, etc. to 4 quarters, up and down. So you can pervade metta. I told you about pervasion of metta. So you can pervade metta upwards, downwards, across, and finally everywhere, expanding across the universe. So you are at a certain level. When it is developed to higher level, you can expand metta throughout the universe. So this is why I think that when at the moment of expansion, this expansion of by the meditator, the most possible thing is, rather than having a person, just the mental, the ability, the possibility, we are seeing the possibility to develop that mental state rather than concentrating upon a particular person. Vipula, abundance, Mahaggata, level of trances, Appamaññā, limitless. So talking about these immeasurables, these are actually words that hint its efficacy to produce jhana rather than liberation. At the same time, it is advised to see whatever phenomena associated with form. Now he said here, see this one, even in this meditation, you are advised to focus on anicca dukkha anatta, but it doesn't talk about actual arhanship. Now look at this one. At the same time, he is advised to see whatever phenomena associated with form, feelings, etc. as impermanent, suffering, and disease. So you can concentrate on whatever phenomena that comes in your way. The final outcome of this practice after death is birth among the gods in the Suddhavasa. You are going to be born in the Suddhavasa as a result of the final outcome in the pure abode, in the Brahma world, but it doesn't talk about actual liberation, arhanship. So now this is another hint that these meditations are more capable of producing jhanas. I mean, the efficacy is more on producing jhanas. Release from mind of Mytha means the moment when mind is free from opposing hindrances. So now we have this Cheto Vimutti. We had this word Cheto Vimutti. The meaning of it is that actually it's a jhanic moment, jhanic circumstance. What is that? The release from mind of Metta, that is Cheto Vimutti, is the moment when mind is free from opposing hindrances. That is the jhana level. At the preliminary level of meditation, now this is a commentarial explanation. At the preliminary level of the meditation, okay, when you start the meditation, this is sensuous, and at the trances, when it is developed to the trance level, jhana level, it is material. It's a material jhana, and here it talks about path of fruition realized on the basis of trances. It is supramundane. Here it is talked about supramundane, but you have to keep in mind that on the basis of trances. So it means that it hints that you develop the trances in terms of immeasurables, 4 immeasurables, but then on that basis, actually, you have to look at, vipassana. You have to concentrate on vipassana, and then you develop vipassana. So it looks like there is a kind of looking at the discourses. I think we become clear that there is a slightly. I mean, the form immeasurables are slightly kept aside from liberation. That is vipassana.
Okay. Professor Viruswati, could you please conclude in 1 or 2 minutes?
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. I will then I will talk about okay. Now in the practical levels, actually, the parents, the mother is the example about the very example about pervading metta, because always the mother is taken as the example. You have to pervade metta in the way how a mother pervades metta, mudita, karuna, and upekka towards its children at different levels of different stages of his or her child. And then in the tradition, we have this. This is the way how we are advised to develop the 4 immeasurable meditation. We start as, may I be free from misery, diseases, and discomfort. Like me, may my parents, and may my teachers, may my friends, may my opponents, may all beings, may all faithful divine beings. So that goes up to the divine beings, and so you are wishing, you well wishes in a meditative mood. And the psychology of this is the last thing I'm talking about. When it comes to the psychology of Brahmaviharas, actually, we see that the metta is prominent. Metta is prominent. There are so many actually discourses that highlight the significance of meditation. So this is metta meditation rather than karuna upekka, but it doesn't mean they are not significant, but here metta is prominent. So now here I will give this one example, one reference. Monk, if someone were to give a gift of 100 serving dishes of food in the morning and in the midday and in the evening, but it says another person were to develop loving kindness even for the time it takes to pull on a cow's udder. It says in the morning, again in the midday, and again in the evening, it would be more fruitful than giving a lot of danas, dishes. So rather than practicing the charity, metta is more prominent. The second one is monks, as the families with more males and less women are difficult to be overwhelmed by the thieves. If you have more males, that family is difficult to be overwhelmed or defeated by the thieves who steal by means of pot. I can't explain this thing now. The monks who freedom of mind, monk whose freedom of mind of loving kindness is well developed, he is difficult to be overwhelmed by spirit. So that is the power. And lastly, we have in the tradition these 11 benefits out of Mytha meditation. Sleeping comfortably, awakes comfortably, does not dream bad dreams, friendly to humans, friendly to non-humans, God protects him, fire, poisons and weapons can no harm, mind becomes easily concentrated, pleasant is his face, dies consciously, if no truth is realized. Now this is also, if no truth is realized. So always there is an idea that the truth, the realization of truth is doubtful, because this is more on Samatha side. If no truth is realized, we'll be born in the Brahma abode. So this is a actually serious psychological change, which is very important to discuss in a set of body of knowledge in Buddhist psychology. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My presentation is over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Venerable Miriswatiji. And our next speaker, Venerable Geshe Yeshichudula, will be going to speak on higher trainings of wisdom, on ultimate reality according to Arya Nagarjuna. Please welcome Venerable Geshe Yeshichudula.
Can I start?
Yes, Mr.
Namo Buddhaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Sanghaya. Tashi Dalit and good afternoon. I pay my... Can you hear me? I pay my humble respect and greetings to all venerables, scholars and distinguished speakers, participants and all. I am greatly honored and privileged to be part of this great conference. And thank Tibet House and Geshe Buddhism for this great opportunity, and more so for all the great initiatives they have been taking all these years to advance His Holiness Dalai Lama's noble visions and commitments. I do really appreciate them. And for myself, I really don't belong to this panel, but I couldn't say no because of the sad reason that seeing how much they are working so hard, I couldn't say just flat yes, but I thought I should just try and do something in spite of the fact that my limited knowledge of Buddhism and also the limited English. And also topic for my today conference is higher training of wisdom on alternate truth according to Arya Nagarjuna. So this is way too much for me, but I would try to share my some views on this, and so please bear with me. I strongly believe that conferences like this bring us together and help us enhance our understanding more and more, and in that way help us contribute more to the larger world through our own traditions. So, and also the world today is becoming very, very materialistic, and despite that amazing developments, physical developments, there seems to be no corresponding happiness and peace in the world. And that I think is mainly due to the fact that science primarily focuses on appeasing our unsatiable wants rather than teaching us how to live with our needs. So in this context, spirituality in general and Buddhism in particular becomes very relevant and need of the day. So, and Buddha has been a very exceptional revolutionary thinker and pioneer, as Geshe Ngawang said, pioneer in advancing the thought of supreme philosophy of anatma and dependent origination as a permanent solution to our sufferings and misery, and not just by tackling the symptoms of suffering and miseries. And as such, his teachings are meant for total revelation, but it also is very much relevant in our day-to-day lives. And as my previous venerable speaker said, it is, we can't explain Buddhism or Buddha's words without explaining the three shikshas. And since they have already explained in elaborate on other sila and concentration, I would try to add some in terms of pana or the wisdom part. Because ultimately it is that wisdom that is the main antidote, the sole antidote to dispel our ignorance, which is at the root of all our sufferings. So, in this context, Arya Nagarjuna in his Madhyamika Karika pays homage to Lord Buddha as thus: homage to Gautam Buddha, who out of boundless love and compassion expounded the sublime teaching to rid of all the false views. All the false views, he says, his stress is on all the false views. So our main duty or our practice, training as the follower of Lord Buddha would be to identify what is wrong view, false view, so that we can release ourselves from bondage of samsara. So Lord Buddha in his very first sermon at Sadhana taught elaborately about Four Noble Truths: the truth of suffering, origin, and cessation, and path. And also later his teachings, philosophical teachings, are grouped or categorically, essentially grouped as Buddhist philosophy into four seals of this one, Buddhist thoughts. That is, all composite products are impermanent, all contaminated things are sufferings, all phenomena are void or empty, nirvana is peaceful and virtuous. So understanding of impermanence, suffering nature of world, possibility of total cessation of it, because it is non-intrinsic, has been his core message. But due to differing understanding and interpretation of above core concepts, especially on the anatma, that is selflessness, or the shunyata, what we call shunyata in the Chittamata and Madhyamika schools, they become four schools of thought of Buddhists. That is Vaibhashikas, Sautantrika, Chittamata, and Madhyamika. Each proposing its own interpretation, especially of anatma or non-existent nature of the phenomena, directly affecting their own view, affecting perspective of nature of nirvana, afflictions, etc. And in this regard, it is widely accepted that commentaries and explanations by Arya Nagarjuna and other Madhyamaka schools on Shunyata and Tibetan origination in Madhyamaka Karika and other commentaries are most precise, clear, and in-depth, and hence revert also as the ultimate supreme view of Lord Buddha himself on these vital concepts.
I'm very sorry that there's been problem with the internet connection with Venerable Geshe Trubla. So till he joins, we can move to the next speaker. So I would like to welcome Venerable Kempo Peshitringla, who's going to speak on difference between Shamatha meditation in Sutra system and Tantra system. Geshe Trubla, please start your presentation. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My topic is Shamatha meditation according to Sanskrit tradition. For this, I have made 14 subsections, which are number 1, introduction; number 2, sevenfold physical postures; number 3, importance of the sevenfold physical postures; number 4, characteristic of calm abiding or shamatha; number 5, manner of practicing shamatha; number 6, classification of the objects of calm abiding; number 7, faults and antidotes related with calm abiding; number 8, the 9 stages of setting the mind; number 9, differences among the 9 mental positions; number 10, illustrations of the shamatha; number 11, manner of achieving concentration samadhi through shamatha; number 12, obstacles of the calm abiding; number 13, breathing meditation; and 14th, meditation on deity. Now in detail. So I will read my paper according to time, okay? If there is any less time, please inform me. Now, detail number 1, introduction. When one focuses on the present human situation in the world, people are too busy for their daily activities to earn food, clothing, shelter, fame, etc. Therefore, it is very difficult to get an opportunity to do any kind of meditation in order to get some mental relief or relaxation. That is why one can see increasing of many physical and mental problems such as obesity, diabetes, blood pressure, hypertension, etc. Meditation is the antidote not only to get rid from temporal worldly physical problems, but also to uproot emotion afflictions so that one may attain liberation and Buddhahood. One may summarize the various kinds of meditations described in Buddhist scriptures in Shamatha and Vipassana. Though these two are interrelated one, but here the emphasis has been done on Shamatha. It is stated in Sandhi Nimojan Sutra, quote, Bhagavan, what are the causes of Samatha, tranquility or calm abiding, and Vipassana, insight? Maitreya, they are emerged from proper morality and proper view of listening and contemplation. Bhagavan, please tell the results of them. Maitreya, proper mind or motivation is a result. Proper wisdom is a result. Furthermore, Maitreya, one should know that all the mundane and transmundane various phenomena, either it is of Sharvaka, Bodhisattvas, or Tathagatas, are the result of Shamatha and Vipassana. Number 2, sevenfold physical postures, and number 3, importance of the sevenfold physical postures. Number 1, in order to control the downward moving wind, sitting cross-legged is necessary. Number 2 and 5, in order to enter the water wind in center, hand in gesture of equipoise and shoulders straight like a yoke are necessary. Number 3, in order to abide the earth wind in the center, the straight back is necessary. Number 4, in order to enter the fire wind in the center, neck slightly bent forward is necessary. Number 6, in order to enter the wind of wind in the center, focusing eyes on the tip of nose is necessary. Number 7, in order not to dry throat, touching the upper palate necessary. Now number 4, characteristic of calm abiding Shamatha. The characteristic of calm abiding has been stated in Adisha's Bodhipatta Pratibha, Lamb to the Path of Liberation, as one should focus the mind with virtue in anything. Number 5, manner of practicing Shamatha. This has 4 subsections. Number 1, non-moving object on which oneself is practicing calm abiding. It is mentioned that if the focusing object is image or statue of Buddha and so forth, there will be more blessings. Generally, according to the Sankya's path and result teaching of Tantra tradition, it is said that one should focus the mind on blue flower, either real or artificial one. The size of flower is approximately 4 inches. The center of the flower is a little bit dark. The center of each of 4 leaves is blue. The blue color of the corner of 4 leaves should be decreased slowly. The difference between the practitioner and object should be 1 yoke. The flower must be level on front of practitioner's nose. Keep the flower on table and so forth without having any movement. When one focuses on Buddha's image and so forth, then the gap between the meditator and image should be in accordance with the size of the image, and level should be equal with one's own forehead. The benefit of using blue flower is, number one, the mind feels easy to focus on flower, and number two, blue color doesn't harm to eye. Number two, non-moving body. This refers to sevenfold posture of Vairocana, which already explained. Number three, non-moving eyelash. One should neither open eyes so much nor close so much, and abide the eyes on that position till the meditational session lasts. Number four, non-destruction of the mind on others. One should keep the mind on the blue flower in a general way without particularly stressing or thinking this is the color of the flower or this is the shape of the flower, etc. There are three stages. Number one, effort or tired. One should focus the eyes and mind on flower. Number two, relax in the middle. This means when one makes much effort on the flower, there is a possibility of arising more conceptual thought. So just after focusing on the flower, stay in relaxed manner. Number three, touching to the nature at the end. This means when you feel the mind and the flower are mixed together, then it is called touching to the nature. In brief, one should try to focus the mind in a natural way without making so much effort. In this way, one should frequently use the above-mentioned three methods. Number six, classification of objects of calm abiding. This has two subsections. Number one, internal objects are visualizing one's body as deity or Buddha is in accordance with Tantra tradition. According to Sutra tradition, having mindfulness of body, feeling, and mind, such as focusing ugliness on one's body as skeleton and so forth, etc., are the antidotes for the emotion affliction of desire. Mindfulness of phenomena relying on one's body, such as inhalation and exhalation, are internal objects. Number two, external objects are visualizing on real exalted body of the Buddha, real teachings of the Buddha. Nobody can focus real exalted spontaneous wisdom or mind of Buddha. And visualizing on blue flower and so forth are also external objects. The entire above-mentioned internal objects and external objects are calm abiding with marks. Calm abiding without marks is insight on vipassana, mindfulness on emptiness or no self. Number seven, faults and antidotes related with calm abiding. One should focus the mind on any virtuous phenomena and abandon 5 faults and apply 8 antidotes as mentioned in Visuddhimagga, distinguishing of the middle and extreme by Arya. In order to abandon 5 faults of calm abiding, one should apply 8 antidotes. The methods of applying the 8 antidotes with the 5 faults are: number 1, fault of laziness. This means lacking of interest in meditation. There are 4 antidotes for this laziness. Number 1, faith, convenience faith. Number 2, aspiration or willpower. Number 3, effort. This means one has to accumulate those causes in order to obtain result. Number 4, plan C, capable to apply body and mind in practice. These are the 4 antidotes. Number 2, fault of forgetting the object of meditation. Practitioner's eyes are opened but mind is wandering. Antidote, there is one antidote for this, that is mindfulness. One should meditate with mindfulness. Number 3, fault of laxity or dullness and excitement. The object of meditation is not forgotten, but mind is under either laxity of sleepiness, dullness, etc., or under agitation. Antidote, there is one antidote for this, that is introspection, making investigation on body, speech, and mind, and especially trying not to come under dullness and excitement during meditation. Number 4, fault of non-application. Not applying antidote though the mind is under dullness and agitation. Not applying antidote when needed. Antidote, there is one antidote for this, that is applying antidote. Applying antidote for dullness and agitation. Number 5, fault of application. Applying antidote though there is no dullness and agitation. Applying antidote when not needed. Antidote, there is one antidote for this, that is equanimity. Number 8, the 9 stages of setting the mind of Shamatha meditation. The 9 stages of setting the mind of Shamatha are: number 1, mental setting; number 2, continual setting; number 3, patch-like setting; number 4, close setting. Number 5, control setting. Number 6, pacification. Number 7, complete pacification. Number 8, single pointed setting. And number 9, equal setting. Detailed explanations of these 9 are: number 1, mental setting. This means having contraction of the mind from the external object and focusing internally. Practicing whatever one has heard from the Guru through the power of listening, but just having blinking movement of focus lacking continuity. For instance, chanting only 1 or 2 syllables of mantra of Om Mani Padme Hum from a rosary. At that time, because of having conceptual thought and analysis in mind, the practitioner can recognize their distraction and agitation and experience their more conceptual thought compared with previous one. Actually, the conceptual thoughts are not increased, but this is due to the experiencing of recognizing conceptual thoughts. Number 2, continual setting. This means focusing the mind to that very first one without distraction. Because of meditating on that way, the person can add little bit continuity to the previous blinking movement. For instance, chanting only 1 complete mantra of Om Mani Padme Hum from a rosary. During this situation, there is a rotation of emergence and dissolution of conceptual thought, and the person can have the experience of lessening on resting conceptual thought. During the first and second position, there are more dullness and agitation and less stabilities. Number 3, patch-like setting. This means having the knowledge of distraction of the mind to the external one and focusing the mind to that very object. For instance, chanting a complete rosary of mantra of Om Mani Padme Hum, having a gap within each and every mantra, like having patch on cloth in order to cover up the torn one. There is a difference of shortness and activity of distraction between the second and the third position. This is the time where the power of mindfulness arises. Number 4, close setting. This means frequently contracting the mind and keeping in subtle way, or focusing to the object after having powerful mindfulness. Here, there is no danger of forgetting the focus of attention. Therefore, it is superior compared with the 3 previous ones, whereas without forgetting the focus of attention, the emergence of dullness and agitation is there. Therefore, the practitioner has to adopt antidote of dullness and agitation. These 3rd and 4th mental positions have been established through the power of mindfulness. From here, the power of mindfulness completes. Number 5, control setting. This means having joy because of collecting the excellent qualities of concentration. Because of severe contraction of mind internally during the 4th mental position, there is a danger of having subtle dullness at this 5th mental position. Therefore, the power of introspection arises here, and through this introspection, the practitioner thinks the excellent qualities of concentration and approach the mind. There is a difference of having and not having of gross dullness and agitation between the 4th and 5th mental position. Number 6, pacification. This means seeing distraction as a fault and pacifying the joy of concentration. Due to uploading of mind during the 5th mental position, there is a danger of arising subtle agitation at here. When subtle agitation arises, then the powerful introspection also arises, and this powerful introspection knows the fault of subtle agitation and seizes it. Here, there is no danger of having subtle dullness, which is superior than the 5th mental position. 5th and 6th mental positions are established through the power of introspection, and the power of introspection completes in this 6th mental position. Number 7, complete pacification. This refers to pacification, attachment, mental discomfort, etc. Though because of completion of the power of mindfulness and introspection, there is no danger of arising dullness and agitation, but because of arising of power of effort at here, the practitioner sees even subtle dullness and agitation as false and tries to abandon them. There is a difference of having and not having the danger of arising subtle dullness and agitation between the 6th and the 7th mental position. Although at this position, there is no danger of arising subtle dullness and agitation, but the practitioner has to make effort to abandon them. During the 5th and 6th position, there is a danger of having overcome by dullness and agitation, whereas in this 7th position, through the power of effort, the effort can cease dullness and agitation, and there is no danger of overcoming by dullness and agitation. Number 8, single pointed setting. Here, at the initial stage, the practitioner makes effort so that he can continuously abide in meditation without making effort in that very session. The practitioner makes little bit effort on the antidote, then during the specific session, he can complete the session without having subtle dullness and agitation. These are similar with an enemy having full power, declining of power, and completely declining of power. Therefore, from the 8th position, due to declination of the power of dullness and agitation, there is no need to make effort for introspection. Number 9, equal setting. Keeping the mind in equal situation. At this stage, the practitioner can abide in meditation without having effort. Number 9, differences among the 9 mental postures. So I would like to skip this one. Then number 10, illustration of the Shamatha. There is a famous illustration of a monk, an elephant, etc. related to Shamatha meditation, which we may put in 15 things, which are number 1, nose represents mindfulness. Number 2, hook represents introspection. Number 3, size of flame represents less and great effort of mindfulness and introspection. Number 4, elephant represents mind. Number 5, black elephant represents dullness. Number 6, monkey represents attraction. Number 7, black monkey represents agitation. Number 8, 5 desired objects of form, sound, odor, taste, and tangible represent objects of agitation. Number 9, improvement of white color elephant represents improvement of clarity and duration of session. Number 10, black color of a rabbit represents subtle dullness. Number 11, looking backward of rabbit represents mental distraction. Number 12, left behind of rabbit represents declining the power of agitation to emerge. Number 13, taking fruit from tree by monkey represents, although during the Shamatha, this is also an obstacle because of having distraction. But ultimately, in order to benefit for oneself and other sentient beings, it represents taking fruit for oneself and others. Number 14, completely white elephant without monkey represents uninterruption or concentration without having obstacle of dullness and agitation. And number 15, the monk represents the practitioner. Now I would like to skip number 11, 12, and 13. So the 14th one, meditation on deity. This has 3 sections. Number 1, according to Tantra tradition, it is said that though all the deities are Buddha in real nature, therefore there is no difference of higher and lesser power, and also there is no partiality among them. But in temporal manner, each and every deity has their own specific potential to bestow siddhis or boons or blessings according to the karmic relation with the practitioner, such as Avalokiteshvara is considered as embodiment of compassion of all the 3 times Buddhas. Manjushri is considered as embodiment of wisdom of all the 3 times Buddhas. Vajrapani is considered as embodiment of power of all the 3 times Buddhas. Goddess Tara is considered as embodiment of exalted deeds of all the 3 times Buddhas, and so forth. Number 2, choosing deity. Choosing deity is a very important before practicing, as Indian master Adisha said. Indians rely on one deity and have the vision of it, whereas Tibetans rely on 100 deities with way. It is like a story of a person relying on 3 different kinds of deity of Vishnu, Brahma, and Mahadeva, and died at the end because of not trusting or concentrating on one particular deity. So, one should choose deity consulting Tantric master as Indian master Acharya Asanga, Dharmakirti, etc. has done, so that one may have the prompt result because of karmic relation with the deity. Number 3, 3 stages of deity meditation. Number 1, preliminary stages. Number 2, actual stage. And number 3, conclusion stage. Number 1, preliminary stage. One can add extensive out of the best, but there must be an image of a deity in which one is going to be meditating. If one meditates for some specific duration of time, such as 3 months, 3 years, etc., through classifying the days in the session, then one should cleanse the mouth before chanting mantras, properly judge the mind and not to affect the mind with emotion, affections, and distraction. So rely on mindfulness and introspection with continuous faith, as Indian master Narupada said. Abundant chanting mantra without cleansing mouth, abundant laziness, lacking faith. Number 2, actual stage. Firstly, one should meditate in an isolated place which does not have any obstacles of human, animal, weather, etc. Or if one meditates in home, then early morning and late night would be much better because of less disturbance. Whatever the virtuous activities one does, initiate them from taking refuge bodhicitta and visualize the specific deity. It does not matter whether the visualization is clear or not, but it should not be distracted to other objects. Focus the mind to the image of deity through eyes. The visualization for the beginner must be for short duration, clear and good as mentioned in the instruction of Pali lineage. Clarity, fine and short duration is important for generation stage. When focusing to the deity, one should consider face, hands, ornaments, attitude, posture, etc., like unreal appearance of reflection in mirror. After blessing the rosary, chant the mantras clearly without omission and addition as stated by Narupa. Abundant wrong pronunciation of mantra word, abundant chanting mantra without concentration, abundant chanting mantra lacking clear visualization. One should concentrate to the mantra meaning without affected by ordinary conceptual thought. Otherwise, the blessing of mantra would become less as stated by Ajay Shanti Deva in Bodhisattva Charavatara. Buddha, the knower of reality, said that it is meaningless to chant and to do ascetic practice for long term with distracted mind. Therefore, always abandon the mind of agitation, dullness, and distraction, and chant the mantra very clearly but in a whisper manner as stated by Narupa. Abandon the visualization affected by sleep, chant mantra clearly but abandon loud noise. During the chanting session, it is important not to mix with mantra with gossip, so that one may attain result quickly and also practice in isolation place as stated by Narupa. If one needs to have the prompt result, abstaining from gossip increases the effect. 1 month abstaining from gossip is better than chanting mantra for 1 year of having gap. A single day chanting meditation in isolation place is better than a year in monastery and village. Following rules are important for those who are in session. The instructions of chanting mantra is not in lying posture, not standing and not laughing, not walking, not eating, not moving seat, not mixing with gossip is external continuity, continuously chanting is internal continuity, and concentration is the secret continuity. Above mentioned rules are not applicable for those who are not in session, such as Ajay Shanti Deva's meditation practice on Manjushri or as stated by Narupa. When one wishes to enter Mahamudra, then chant mantra anywhere and anytime. Number 3, conclusion stage. One should recite 100 syllables mantra in order to supplement the omission and addition of mantra. Submit the number of mantras recited by the practitioner to the deity, and also chant Pratisam Udpat mantra 7 times, etc., so that the potential of mantra would not decrease but achieve more blessings. At the end, one should do proper dedication, and whatever the activities of eating, yoga, and so forth are done, do all this in the manner of dream and illusion without having attachment. After the completion of chanting mantras, there are 2 traditions of performing 5 puja, which are performing 5 puja at daily basis and at the end of retreat. One may perform whichever suits the practitioner. According to the number of 5 puja, one should do 10% of chanted mantra as it is said in Vajradom Tantra. There is no siddhi or attainment without chanting mantra. There is no result without performing 5 puja. It is said to perform 10,000 5 puja when one has chanted 100,000 mantras. Because of chanting mantras, okay, only 1 minute. Because of chanting mantras, it reminds the essence of exalted Buddha of all the exalted mind of all the Buddhas. The manner of reminding has been stated in Vajradom Tantra. The person surely comes near when he is called through voice by the name. Buddha is also the same. Sarvamangalam. Thank you very
much. Thank you, Venerable Khenpo Singla. And we would like to continue Venerable Geshe Yeshitudubla's session. So, Geshe Yeshitudubla, are you there? Geshe Yeshitudubla? Okay, so we will move to the next speaker, Dr. Nilza Wangula, and she will be speaking from the perspective. Okay, she'll be speaking from the topic given challenges and their remedies in the practice of altruistic bodhicitta. Dr. Nilza, please proceed. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Am I audible? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So firstly, I'd like to thank Geshe Dorje Damdullah, Director at Tibet House, for giving me this opportunity. Geshe has always been so kind. Okay, I don't think I'm audible enough. Okay, so Geshe-la, thank you so much, and it's an honor to be here amongst my senior professors from Delhi University and Mr. Shakti Sinaji, with whom I'm working right now. And we've just finished our first regional conference here. I'm actually talking from Sara College, which is the first, our co-partner, Institute of Buddhist Dialectics. So before I start the topic, which is challenges and remedies in the practice of altruistic bodhicitta, I'd like to make a disclaimer. I'm not the best person to talk about it, but I'm just going to share what I've learned so far from my teachers. So I have a few slides to show. So my presentation, in the beginning, I'll just be sharing few, okay, is it visible? So I'll be sharing few extracts from the sutras and shastras. Okay. Okay. So the first slide here, the title goes by Challenges and Remedies in the Practice of Altruistic Bodhicitta. So I'd like to start with the question, what is altruistic bodhicitta? So basically, we all have come across the term altruism, but bodhicitta, not many people in the world get to hear the term bodhicitta. So altruism, the general understanding is the principle and moral practice of concern for happiness of the other sentient beings. And strictly speaking, bodhicitta, if you break it up, it's made of two terms, bodhi and chit. Bodhi, which means awakening or awakened, and chit, which is the mind, the awakened mind. And in Arya text, treatise Abhisamayalamkara, it is defined as bodhicitta is what aspires to attain the thorough and complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. So this is a definition in Arya text. So in the next slide, I'd like to share what Buddha said about bodhicitta in the questions of the householder Viradatta Sutra. If whatever merit there is in the spirit of bodhicitta had form, it would fill the entire vault of the sky and then exceed it. Were someone to fill the Buddha realms with jewels as numerous as the grains of sand of the Ganges and offer this to the protector of the world, far superior is the merit in the offering of one who, joining his or her hands, reverently generates the mind of bodhicitta. There is no limit to the merit in this. So from these lines, one can just see the unfathomable merit and the preciousness of this mind of bodhicitta. And so altruistic bodhicitta is the primary mind which accompanies the aspiration for complete enlightenment or awakening for the benefit of others, and it is the entrance to the Mahayana path. So basically in Buddhism, we have the two traditions, the Theravada tradition and the Mahayana tradition. So bodhicitta is a practice in the Mahayana tradition, and so to activate this mind of bodhicitta, we have to develop the great compassion. The great compassion, again, when you hear the terms great compassion or bodhicitta or altruism, so generally we might, think that they all mean the same. But there are technicalities when we go to the strict meaning of these terms. So great compassion here is when you wish to alleviate all sentient beings from their miseries. That mind, wishing to alleviate all sentient beings from their suffering or miseries, is the great compassion. Whereas bodhicitta is, like I defined in the earlier, it's defined in Arya text, is the mind that aspires to attain thorough and complete enlightenment for the welfare of others. And altruism, again, is just having a concern for the happiness of other sentient beings. So in Acharya Chandrakirti's text, so great compassion in most of the Mahayana text, great compassion has been revered in the beginning of the Sutras, Shastras. So in Madhyamika Avatara text, Entering the Middle Way, which is a commentary on Mula Madhyamika Karika by Arya Nagarjuna, Acharya Chandrakirti has praised compassion, and he says, compassion alone is seen as the seed of a victor's rich harvest, as water that nourishes it, and as the ripened fruit that is a source of long enjoyment. Therefore, at the start, I praise compassion. So here, of a victor's rich harvest, here the victor means the Buddha's harvest, rich harvest. So compassion, unless one generates the great compassion, one cannot really develop the mind of bodhicitta. And likewise, in Acharya Dharmakirti's text, the 7th century great sage logician, Pramanavartika, again, compassion, it said compassion and others that one generates in mind through training will eventually develop to a natural, spontaneous level. So, at the moment, in the minds of the ordinary beings, the mental continuum of the ordinary beings, the ordinary beings versus the Aryas, the Buddhas, sorry. So basically, what makes one ordinary is because though we have the basic seed of Buddhahood, which is the Buddha nature, the only reason we are not at that level is because we haven't habituated ourselves in that practice. So here in Pramanavartika, Acharya Dharmakirti says, compassion and other positive minds that one generates through training will eventually develop to a natural and spontaneous level where one does not have to make effort. It just comes naturally. Like how we, at the moment, we have the self-grasping ignorance always there with us. So anything we do, there's always the self, I, which governs everything. But in the mind of the bodhisattvas, those who have already generated this bodhicitta, the bodhicitta is so spontaneous because they've been developed, they've been practicing, and the title as it goes, study, reflection, and meditation. Through these 3 steps, they've been habituating themselves, and they have attained a state where this mind of bodhicitta comes to them naturally. So this is not something which the Buddha has put in the minds of the practitioner. It's all through development and practice, study, reflection, and meditation. And in Bodhicharya Avatara, the 8th century Nalanda Pandita Bodhisattva Shantideva, which most of us know, in the first chapter, which is on the benefits of the awakening mind, he says, the it, which is the altruistic bodhicitta, is like the supreme gold-making elixir, for it transforms the unclean body we have taken into the priceless jewel of a Buddha form. Therefore, seize this awakening mind of altruistic bodhicitta. So this is from chapter 1, verse 10 of Bodhicharya Avatara. Likewise, so this mind is so rare. So here in chapter 3 of Bodhicharya Avatara, again, Bodhisattva Shantideva says, just like a blind man discovering a jewel in a heap of rubbish, likewise, by some coincidence, an awakening mind has been born within me. So though it says coincidence, but of course through years or lifetimes of generating merit, accumulating merit, one's able to generate this awakening mind. Okay, so the first part, I just wanted to quote a few lines from the Sutras and Shastras. Now I'd like to share the challenges. So what stops us from generating this altruistic mind of bodhicitta, which is the underlying question, and why do we call it challenges? Challenges because every sentient being in samsara we're all trying to get rid of suffering, of mental suffering and physical suffering. So suffering in Buddhism is explained as 3 types. One is suffering of suffering, or evident suffering, like the suffering of stomachache, where we don't have to use reasoning. it's quite evident. And the second type of suffering is suffering of change. So like when you're in a very hot weather, on a very hot day, you are feeling extremely hot, you enter the room which has an air con, and after a while you start to feel cold. So initially that the first moment when you enter the cold room, you feel very blissful, happy that now you've got rid of the heat. But after a while, that pleasure starts to turn into suffering again. So likewise, most of the sufferings that we face. So basically, the second type of suffering is also called it's like a bait. The bait, the fish when you go fishing. So we are most of the time we don't want to come out of the samsara because of the second type of suffering, because we get so caught up in that short momentary happiness. And the third type of suffering is the suffering of all pervasive conditioned suffering, which is analogous to an example where one is dreaming of a ghost, and the ghost chasing you in the dream, and constantly one is experiencing fear, anxiety, thinking simply because one thinks that the ghost in the dream is a real ghost, but upon waking up one realizes that the ghost was just the extension of your own mind, and it was not existing objectively. So basically all those in samsara, we are pervaded by this ignorance, the self-grasping ignorance, viewing things or phenomena to exist independent of our mind, and which is why we, based on that, we experience all kinds of mental afflictions, pain, suffering. So in challenges, I just broadly, these are the two main challenges that we need to overcome to really generate the mind of bodhicitta and reach Buddhahood. The self-cherishing mind, which always puts oneself, considers oneself more important than the other. And the second is the self-grasping ignorance, as I just mentioned earlier. And the other there are many, in Buddhist psychology, there are many afflictions, different types of afflictions, mental afflictions, of the 6 root afflictions, 20 secondary afflictions, and anger is one of the 6 root afflictions. So anger is something which is discouraged in the practice, especially in the teachings of Buddha, because anger is something that negates all our virtue. So the other thing I wanted to share, this extract from Mula Madhyamika Karika by Arya Nagarjuna, chapter 18 on examination of self and phenomena. Arya Nagarjuna says, ceasing of karmas and afflictions lead to nirvana. Karmas and afflictions arise from conceptual thoughts. These arise from mental elaborations, grasping at true existence. Elaboration ceases by or into emptiness. So why I picked up this this extract from Mula Madhyamika Karika is because I'm trying to, when we go to the next, which is the remedies, how to develop this altruistic mind of bodhicitta. Broadly, there are 2 main causes or methods to generate the mind of bodhicitta. Okay, so I'll go back to the extract later. So I won't go into details. I'll just read the 2 methods to generate the mind of bodhicitta: the 7-fold cause-effect method and the method of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others. So these 2 are the main causes to generate the bodhicitta. So these 2 methods were both taught by the Buddha, but they came down in different lineages. So the 7-fold cause-effect method was taught by Arya Maitreya and passed down to Arya Asanga, and then further down to Arya Vasubandhu. And the second method, the method of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others, was also taught by the Buddha and passed down to Arya Manjushri. Rishri, and then down to Arya Nagarjuna, and then Arya Nagarjuna taught to his student Aryadeva, Acharya Aryadeva, and then Acharya Shantideva. So these teachings have come down from the Buddha. So going back to this, the main question is why challenges and why remedies? All because ultimately we all accept we have suffering, and we all want to get rid of suffering. So how does this suffering arise? So here in these few lines, Arya Nagarjuna talks about how self-grasping gives rise to inappropriate attention or mental fabrication, which gives rise to afflictions, and afflictions in turn gives rise to contaminated karmas, and then these contaminated karmas then gives rise to suffering. So there is this the cause effect. You can see it's like a ripple effect. So one thing I'd like to mention, something very important. Let me just read out the sevenfold cause effect method. The first is remembering all beings as one's own mother, having been one's mother in our past lives, remembering their kindness, repaying their kindness. Number 4, seeing beings in the light of great affection. 5th, great compassion. And 6th, altruism. And the 7th is bodhicitta. So here you can see great compassion, number 5, number 6, altruism, and bodhicitta. So these are gradually you develop these positive minds. And this method of equalizing and exchanging oneself with others, equalizing self and others. Second is reflecting on the demerits of cherishing oneself. Third is reflecting on the merits of cherishing others. Fourth is taking the suffering of others with great compassion, giving your happiness to others with wishing them love. Actual exchange of self with others. 7, special recollection of the kindness of others. Number 8, altruism. Number 9, bodhicitta. So this has 9 steps. Now I'm just going to share a few points. So one important point that I'd like to share about is skillful means, which is coming together of both wisdom of emptiness. So this self-grasping ignorance, how is analogous to a poisonous tree with very strong roots. This self-grasping ignorance, we've been our mental continuum have had this self-grasping ignorance for lifetimes, and it's very strong. Therefore, to break that, to cut that self-grasping ignorance, we need a very...
Yeah, Dr. Nitila, I'm so sorry for the interruption. Could you please conclude in 2 minutes?
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, sure. So self-grasping ignorance, the antidote to self-grasping ignorance is the wisdom of emptiness, seeing things to exist subjectively rather than objectively. So the example given is when you look at a rainbow in the sky. We all know the rainbow. If you go near the rainbow, you will not be able to find the rainbow or grasp at the rainbow. But we know that the rainbow exists because it is there's so many different causes and conditions come together. So likewise, the world, our perception of the world, the truth, the fundamental truth of the way the things exist in reality, our perception do not match or do not go in line with the reality, the fundamental truth, which is why suffering is experienced by us. So in terms of the remedies, one is to change that perception, the wrong perception. And the other thing is to generate this beautiful mind of bodhicitta, where we cherish others more than self. What you mix in the water, the true nature of the water is pure. Likewise, the mind that we have is full of afflictions, but these afflictions, again in Pramanavartika, chapter 2 of Acharya Dharmakirti, Acharya Dharmakirti says that these afflictions are adventitious in nature. They can be removed, like how the dirt from the water can be removed. So based on that, the Buddha nature, one can talk about Buddhahood, the possibility of Buddhahood, the possibility of getting rid of suffering altogether.
Dr. Nilsala? Thank you, Dr. Nilsala. I think Dr. Nilsala has lost the internet connection. So, so without taking much time, I'll just request Geshe Yeshitubla to continue his talk. So, Geshe Yeshitubla, please.
Ashidale and welcome again. So sorry for the internet. That is, from my side, that is not so stable. So sorry for that. So I will straight away go into my topic, that is, what is the ultimate reality according to Nagarjuna and Madhyamika school of thought.
So I'll
Can you hear me? Yeah? Can you hear me?
Okay,
so I will try to not take much time so that another internet breakdown will come.
Okay, Geshe-la, please. Thank you.
So according to my understanding, ultimate reality according to Nagarjuna would be like all phenomena are non-intrinsic in nature and they are purely subjective imputation. No. So, of course, all schools talk about twofold. That is negation and affirmation. But here we are talking about the highest level of negation and affirmation. And at the same time, it is when we try to counter the subtlest of the avidya, we fall into tendency to negate too much, that is too broad. That will lead to our negation of this existence itself. The very fact that I, mine, no.
I'm sorry again that I think Geshe Yeshitubla again lost his connection. So, Dr. Nilsala, will you conclude your session?
Nature, which is pure. There's in today's modern science, especially neuroscience, social neuroscience. So within neuroscience, there are many branches these days. So in social neuroscience, there are researches happening. They're doing some research on mirror neurons, so these mirror neurons are motor neurons, which in the brain. So what it does is something which we've already experienced. When you see the same thing outside or in some other person doing that action, it mirrors that emotion or experience. So empathy. So empathy is one field the neuroscientists are delving into, the social neuroscientists. So the effects of how to generate empathy by bringing into the context of the brain studies. So and also His Holiness the Dalai Lama often talks about these experiments being done where small toddlers are made to watch cartoon videos where they're shown two types of videos. One video where in the cartoon it's very destructive, and the other video where it's very pleasing and
so sorry again. So maybe my internet doesn't listen to me. Hello? Can you restart?
Yeah. Yes, Kira.
So sorry to everybody. Sorry for the inconvenience. So I will try to conclude this. Actually, Buddha taught us how to tackle the root, the problem, suffering or miseries at the root level, not just treat symptoms. That is by teaching us to acknowledge the world as it is. The world as it is means they are full of sufferings, everything. You just can't avoid the suffering, challenges, and escape all the time. So Buddha, in his very sad sermon, taught importance about finding the truth, reality. So, what is reality of the world is just like a sprout, springs from a seed, not just for seed, but it needs other factors like water, heat, like that. So are the miseries, sufferings, or our problems. They arise from contaminated karma and afflictions, and they in turn arise from distorted conceptual thoughts, and that in turn arise from the grasping at self, or anatma graha, that what we call anatma graha. So it is through experiential way we can tell that the greater that self solid self conception or the grasping at that is greater, then there would be that attachment, aversion in regard to directed to that would be relatively greater. So Buddha saw that, and so
Okay. I think I'm so sorry, everyone, and thank you for your patience. And since Geshe Shuchutupla again lost his connection, so we would like to invite a very short 1 or 2 questions from the participants if those of you have questions. So we will take 1 or 2 questions. If anybody, and you can raise the virtual hand or an actual hand so that we can able to see you. And
Okay, I'm not sure. I hope I'm audible. Okay, thank you. So basically, I'm entitled for only 1 question. I don't know if Dr. Panaha is available here. If not, then I will ask question to Dr. Miriswate. Yeah. My question is that the one, so maybe it's a very quick question. What do you call it, the non-returner? You talked about practicing metta and then attaining the level of the non-returner. Non-returners, of course, is not arhat, not arahant. My question is, what is the very precise qualification for somebody to have achieved non-returner? Which means, what are the mental defilements to be abandoned for one to say that, okay, now this person, he or she has attained non-returner? This one. And the other very small question is, why this label, the Brahmavichara, is changed to the Appamaññā? So why this? You said that this is changed later at the Appamaññā. That is not the Sutra word. So in Sutra you find the Brahmavichara, and so in Tibetan we call it the Cangzhi Nishi. And then Semeshi, the what you call is Appamaññā. In Tibetan it is the Semeshi. So these 2 vocabularies are there in the Sanskrit tradition. And I'm just wondering, what made you to say that the vocabulary which is available in Sutra is changed to the Appamaññā? So these 2 questions. Thank you so much.
I would like to answer the second question. The Brahmavihara is actually the old names, the second, the Appamaññā is actually, I mean, if you take the Sutra, even in the sutras we have this meaning ascribed to Brahmaviharas. They are limitless, but specific the connotation was given to the four emotions, Appamaññā, in the Abhidharmic tradition. The reason, as I explained, Bhante, was that now Brahmavihara, when you say Brahmavihara, actually it hints or it indicates a cluster of four emotions: metta, mudita, karuna, and upekkha. In the Abhidharmic tradition, what happened was that there were different classifications. There were so many classifications of the mental states. But one thing happened was that these four were classified in actually three different classifications. So the cluster, the four lost its original shape, which is a cluster. So then they were put one in the classification called universals. Another classification was universal of wholesome mental state, and the other one is the non-universal mental states called of the wholesome mental state itself. But now basically what I mean is because of the fact that the Abhidharmikas wanted to put these things in different classifications, they have found a new name called Appamaññā, which means immeasurables, but at the same time which has a connection to the sutras in relation to its meaning. I don't know, my answer was intelligible, Bante. Yeah, the second thing was the non-return. And now in the tradition we have, in the Pali tradition we have this idea of fetters, the sanyojana, the fetters. So in case of non-returner, it is said that non-returner is intended to be a noble person who destroys five fetters, which are considered to be lower fetters. Of course, there are five fetters are higher fetters, and the another five fetters are lower fetters. So non-returner is considered to be the noble person who has destroyed the five lower fetters. Now these fetters are, one is sensual desire, kamaraga, kamachanda, and then sloth and torpor. Venerable Yasasi, am I correct? Kamachanda, Vyapada, and then Vyapada is hatred, and then Silabhata Paramasa, skeptical doubts or tendency to rites and rituals, and then Kamaraga, the desire, and the last one is Patiga, that is hatred. So if I am correct, memorizing the list, yeah. So yes. So the last two are the Kamaraga and Patiga. So these five lower fetters are destroyed by the non-returner completely. So that is the situation of the noble. I mean the noble nature of the non-returner. Higher fetters are fully destroyed by the Arhat. Okay, I can remember. I'm sorry. First one is the Sakkaya Ditthi. Sakkaya Ditthi means the notion of the self in the body. Okay, the notion of the self in the body. Sakkaya Ditthi. I'm sorry. Sakkaya Ditthi is the first one. Vichikicha is the second one. Skeptical doubt. Silabhata Paramasa. The tendency to rite and rituals in order to be free from defilements. That is the third one. And Kamachanda, sensual desire, and Patiga, that is hatred. So these five are destroyed by the non-returner completely.
Thank you, Venerable Professor Miriswati. Now we'll move to the conclusion, and I'd like to request our Secretary, Mr. Tenzin Chokdana, to kindly deliver the thank you note. Thank you.
Thank you, Tezu Damala. As we conclude today's conference, on behalf of Tibet House, I'd like to express my heartfelt thanks to each and every one of you who participated in this event today. Special thanks to the chairperson, Professor K.T. Sarao, Venerable Gishing Awa Samtilla, and all the speakers for bringing in their expertise and experiences at the table and engaging in such fruitful, constructive, and open exchanges through the medium of this conference. Regardless of the limited time frame that we've had, the philosophies and ideas that shared here today has been truly rewarding. I hope many of you might have had the opportunity to imbibe the knowledge that was shared here today at this conference. I would also like to inform you that Tibet House offers regular Tibetan language courses, which of course now due to the pandemic has been kept virtual. There are 4 different levels of courses that we offer: beginners, intermediate, advanced, and level courses. Recently, we completed our 21st batch of Tibetan language course, and we are yet to start on with the 22nd batch. The registration windows will open from 15th October 2021. If you're interested, you can kindly contact pc@tibethouse.in and we'll guide you through the registration process, or you can log on to www.tibethouse.in for more details. To get notified about the upcoming programs, conferences, and events through our weekly announcement, kindly write into pc@tibethouse.in and we'll add you up in our mailing list. And last but not least, I'd like to thank our behind the screen team, Ms. Ring Dunbula, IT staff, Ms. Tenzin Domala, Program Coordinator, and Ms. Tenzin Nadula, Assistant Program Coordinator, and nonetheless, Director Tibet House, Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdala, for making this event possible. Thank you all. Thank you for the Friday afternoon time.
Thank you, Jajopana.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so thank you each and everyone for joining today's conference, and especially thank you to Shri Mr. Shakti Senaji for your presence till the end of the conference. And I also like to thank Venerable Geshe Samtila and our chairperson, Professor K.T. Sarauji, and all the speakers who has tremendously worked hard to able to share the presentation on this conference, and especially Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdala for your guidance. And last but not the least, I would like to thank each and every one, the participants who could able to join today's conference, and we would like to see you in our future conferences, programs, and good evening, and see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.